Let's see. Ken, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
I can. I have my water softeners filling up, which usually is done by now, but we'll see what happens if that gets too distracting. That water sound in the background.
I don't hear it.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, we shall see. I didn't need a root canal, which
Well, that's good news.
yeah. When the person making tons of money says that's if you need a root canal that you don't need one, um, I take that as a good sign.
Were they willing to give you one even if you didn't need it?
I don't know, but I was mainly just worried about going to Celebration. I didn't want to like next Wednesday wake up with a sharp nagging pain in my mouth and not be able to go to California.
Yeah, that'd be very, very bad. Very annoying.
Normally I let things go until it's too late, but this time I was okay. Um, I'm just getting, but yeah, I didn't know what was going to happen. So and I'm a big baby when it comes to mouth pain. So, yeah. But I had Anthony over.
How
So
did that go? What'd you guys do?
we had a fun day. We looked at a whole bunch of Star Wars. He like took a tour of Castle Hinton here for a little while, and then we went to eat at Decades, which is a video game themed restaurant in
Is that the
Lancaster.
one with the bowling alley attached?
Yeah, bowling alley. Well, it's an old gymnasium, so half of it they made into a bowling alley, and then half is just like tables all, and then with video games all around.
That's
Like just
awesome.
and it's a nice spread out thing. So like I never really noticed pre-COVID like restaurants that like stack in like cordwood. It never really bothered me until COVID, and then you get so used to not being near people, and this place is like really nice open spaces and stuff. So
Is it the kind of place that you pay one set price to go in and then the games are all included, or you play it by the game?
yeah, no, it'd be like a regular restaurant, and then if you want games, they have cups of tokens you buy,
Okay.
like but the games are all I think like a quarter. I don't think there's any duplicate like like 4 quarters if I don't remember correctly, but I think it's all like that. So
Gotcha.
um so
Did he
yeah,
walk away with a costume for Celebration?
he did not. That's after he left, I was thinking I thought we were gonna, and then we didn't even I think I don't know if he forgot. We just got sidetracked because then we went to the comic book store in Lancaster, and then we went to a retro video game store, um, and then yeah, he didn't really. I think we forgot. Now that you say that, because he did. I
Because
had
I thought
found
that was why he was coming to hang out with you.
that's what I thought too. But I just totally we just had such a good day. I just totally forgot. So I don't.
Nice.
But we did here. Let me turn my TikTok off, so all my people on TikTok can go jump over to. Let me turn this off. Sorry, guys. All right, there we go. So I'm not talking to two people. Um, no, so I don't know. We just had a good day. It was just a fun day. Um, I showed him my 3D printer room because his son has a 3D printer that he hasn't really done much with. So
Oh, I didn't even know he had one.
yeah, I think he said he got it for him for Christmas, and they hadn't got to it yet. So
Gotcha.
3D printing is one of those things. I'm printing this IG-11. The one printer has been printing it since I bought it new. I haven't done anything else on it, and I'm up to the shoulders now. But I'm terribly low on filament. I usually have like a stock of 10 to 15 boxes of filament. I'm down to one more box
Oh boy.
because it's been back ordered, and I'm like, you know, so and filaments like the place I buy it from is GST 3D, which is like it's $10 a roll, basically $9.99. Sometimes it's on sale for $8.99, but it's normally $10 a roll. But every other place for decent filaments like $20 a roll. So it's a big step if you have to buy
Yeah.
a single roll. But I had a failure. I had my first failure, which is this is IG-11's shoulder. one shoulder. But I have a sensor that tells you when it runs out of filament. Well, the filament, because it's one of my old, well, it must have been in the back of the shelf. It broke right after the sensor, so it ran the filament out, but it still thought it had filament. So I came home and it was all misprinted. So this one here, I'm going to try to fix it later. I'll try to like print an attachment to it, but I'm not going to use it for my this will be a Jawa junk part.
There you go.
I'll make like a junk arm or something like that. But after that prints, I have to print the center of the chest, and I have everything done except for the head and the two arms.
Oh, nice.
So I'll stand him up somewhere. Either that or my students want me to bring him, stand him up in the classroom. So I'm debating on that one.
You have to give him a new name then. IG something something.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking if I brought him to school, I'd paint him like the school colors or something like that.
Yeah.
And,
IG 77.
Yeah, make him like make him like a homework droid or something.
Yeah, there you go.
But I don't know.
They made IG 11 into a nurse droid.
Yeah. Well, that's the file. When you buy the file, it's called the nurse droid files.
Oh, nice.
But I haven't decided. I haven't bought the head file yet because I don't know if I was telling you guys they sell a static head and one that you can put servos in, so it'll actually spin.
Oh,
so
wow, that's pretty intense.
What I'm going to do. So, but I thought this week with John, I thought we've talked about a bunch of topics, but have we talked about in general podcasting? Because
Not
that's
really.
what I was thinking of, like something that maybe we all have in common, and it's Star Wars podcasting.
Yeah.
And I was of how good your podcast is, and how I should really get a hold of Colin and get our podcast started back. But I don't know. That's why I was just thinking about that this week. And whatever this I don't know if we call this a podcast or just some guys yapping on the evening in a Wednesday evening.
Well, we haven't ever, other than this live stream, we've never shared the recordings, have we?
No, I should share these recordings with you guys because you could just put them up on your stream.
Yeah, we've never created like an Inflatable Falcon stream or.
No, because I mean I could go on Anchor probably. I mean it's like a commercial for Anchor. Anchor is becoming one of my. I'm liking what Anchor is doing. The is it Spotify? No, iHeartRadio. They advertise another one too, another service, but theirs is not free.
Oh, okay. I mean, since we put our stuff on Anchor, we've had zero problems with it that I'm aware of.
Yeah, no, Anchor seems to be the way of pretty much anyone that doesn't really want to rope. I mean, anyone. It seems to like cross both people that just seriously want to do podcasting and not have to spend money. And I don't think it's not free because it's cheap and terrible. It's just free because of the way they run it.
Well, also it doesn't. I haven't played with Anchor enough to know about all the bells and whistles. I just use it basically just to put our recordings. That's it.
Right.
From what I understand, you can actually use Anchor to record your shows and to edit your shows.
Yeah, right on. You can do it from at least from what they say. You can do it right on your phone.
Yeah, and I haven't gotten that fancy.
Yeah, well, that's what because Anthony was saying. Anthony was looking at the setup here, and he was like, "Oh, we should record a show here because of all this equipment." And then we were talking, and I was like, a lot of this equipment isn't even necessary anymore, just from how things have changed. I mean, I have a drawer full of mics that are probably worth more than my car, and you don't need them all.
Even look at what we're doing right now. I mean,
yeah,
we're connecting on this, and it can save the recording or what we do for our show. Hey, what's up, John?
Howdy.
I mean, we just record through Zoom.
Yeah.
So I mean, you don't necessarily need heaps and heaps of fancy equipment. I mean, I have the same exact microphone that John is showing right now in the screen, the Snowball.
Yeah, I have a whatever this thing is.
Was that one you got from Mike Pilot?
Yeah, I got 3 of them. So I have the Yeti. That's the one I started with. John, we're talking about podcasting in general.
Gotcha.
I don't know if the chat thing is up working on YouTube yet or not. I don't know.
Gotcha. And that one that the one that John has in his display right now, that's a Yeti Snowball.
Yeah, and then
Yeah,
this is the one we initially started with, and that was she was the Wookiee Gunner. Now she's Geeky Bubble. That's what she recommended when Zoe first started, and I like this one because you could put a regular mic jack in it, or put it straight to your computer.
Oh, that's pretty fancy.
My only complaint with the Yeti was that you couldn't run the Yeti into a mixing board.
Gotcha.
So then, and then I went with, and I ran into early on with the girls, the first probably 7 or 8 podcasts, we literally had Skype open on one laptop, and Zoe was recording in GarageBand on another laptop, and we just did it open air because Skype had a recorder, but because Skype, it was newer at the time, and then Skype would drop. Skype always went by whoever had the slowest feed, so it would drop the recordings, or the recorder would just lock everything up, stuff like that. So we did that for a while. Then I went to the paid Skype service for a while. And
what was the one you had told us about when we originally started?
We were using Clean Feed. Was it
Clean Feed? Yep, that's the one.
Clean Feed was probably the lifesaver for a while, because Clean Feed recorded both ends, and then as soon as you hit save, it meshed them together. So it didn't matter if you and I were talking and it gurgled up, it wouldn't gurgle in the recording. So that was a pretty decent one. And then when COVID hit, Zoom just kind of took over, because Zoom, you could just yank the audio, yank the video, but it's hard to know. It's just funny how it has evolved and so quickly, and I don't know where my place or what we're going to do in the future, because I like the video podcasting, but I'm kind of like that old school. I like to feed into all the podcatchers, which I know is a whole different animal of podcasts. Like, I like to listen to them when I'm doing things, where I have, like, Marty has never listened to a podcast. He just listens to YouTube stuff, so, and I don't really watch as much YouTube as most people.
And that's where we have, like, what Anthony in our group does is we record it through Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony will take the video portion of that and put that on our Facebook page. And then I'll take our audio of that same conversation and upload it into Anchor, and that goes into all the audio podcasts.
Yeah.
And one of the challenges with that, and it's not so much of a big deal for us, the forces behind Star Wars, because we don't strive to make money from it.
Right.
So we don't care about how many views or how many hits, we talk about it as a group that we'd like to have more feedback and we'd like to have more folks participate.
So we don't care about how many views. Oh, sorry.
That was weird.
I opened up the wrong window. Sorry.
Oh, so we're not so concerned about tracking it as much as some other folks are.
Right.
So if let's say you have 10 people that watch it in Facebook and 5 people listen to it on Spotify or whatever, we don't have an easy way of calculating all those things. And on some levels, it's not our true focus.
Right.
Although I'm leaning towards possibly starting a solo podcast, not necessarily Han Solo, but a Ken Solo podcast, and see if I can make something out of it.
Yeah, well, I think it's, if you chase the numbers can be depressing, because no hosting service wants to share their numbers. You know, like if you go on SoundCloud, that's what I host Zoe's. They really don't want to send you any iTunes numbers because they want people to listen on SoundCloud. You know, and iTunes is the same way. Like there's no, like I use Chartable.
Okay.
Chartable can give you some like where you are on the charts, but they're kind of backhandedly run by Apple. So you know what I mean? So they're just promoting Apple listens even though they include other things. And if you listen, if you go on any of these podcast things, it'll say top 20 Star Wars podcasts. Many times that's just, it looks like they just pulled numbers from like whatever year someone else last wrote, because there's podcasts that aren't even in existence anymore on their like top 200 podcasts. You know what I mean? So, like, come on, at least you know,
Update it.
yeah. So, but I mean, I'm like in John's podcast where you just need to get some more episodes going. You know.
I talked to Jess yesterday about that, and we're he's going to rewatch the original trilogy again just to refresh his memory because it's been about a month or so now. Yeah, we're gonna do something here within the next week or so. And then I've got a couple of TikTok creators that I still have on the back burner. I'm just kind of waiting for my life to, resettle.
Well, you should, if you're interested, maybe spend some time talking with Dexter from our show.
Yeah, I think that would be.
So, in addition to being on our podcast, he's also an artist. So he's done some amazing aliens related art. He's done video game related art. He's even done some Star Wars art, and he's in the process now. Hopefully, I'm not speaking out of turn, but he's taking our faces of the five of us and incorporating them into what we call the Rad Batch.
Oh yeah, that's
so
cool.
we're all getting the physique of different members of Clone Force 99 and the Bad Batch.
That's good.
So that'll be really. He actually, I don't know if he said his wife was going to make it or if he was going to make a T-shirt for all of us.
There you go.
Well, we got a T-shirt guy here. We got John, the T-shirt guy too.
Yeah.
Well, when Anthony was over and we were talking about this stuff, and I realized after he left that if I look at all the friends and people I've known, maybe with the exception of my wife, everything that caused me not to have friends when I was younger is what now ties my friends together. Star Wars, comic books, and Dungeons and Dragons is you know.
I think every day of the number of folks that have come into my world because of some sort of a conversation that included Star Wars at some point, and it has only strengthened those bonds and given us opportunities to do things that we probably wouldn't have necessarily thought of. I mean, just this past weekend while you were hanging out with Anthony, Heather and I went up to New York City. There was an exhibit there called The Fans Strike Back. And it's a couple of guys who displayed their Star Wars collection.
Oh, that's cool.
And so it was a bunch of costumes, a ton of, I think they were either Gentle Giant or what are some of those other high-end statuettes?
Yeah, I there's all kinds that come out with the action figures and the statues, but yeah, Gentle Giant's the one I know most.
Yeah, so
Sideshow and Hot Toys.
Yeah, maybe that's what. Maybe it was Sideshow. Maybe that was one of the others. But it was this huge 2-floor setup that we walked through. We must have spent a couple hours there, just taking pictures and being silly. And we went out on walked around New York City for a little bit. And when we were walking back towards the car, we bumped into other people that we went to that same exhibit, because if you bought a certain ticket, they gave you a certain. Let's see, do I have it close by? I don't. They gave you a lightsaber as a gift
Cool.
for buying the VIP ticket. So you'd see random people walking down the street near this exhibit carrying these plastic lightsabers, and of course we would talk to them in the crosswalk. Oh, did you go see that thing? What did you think? It was pretty funny.
That's cool.
So we drove the 2+ hours or whatever to New York City to spend the day looking at somebody else's Star Wars collection.
Well, that's like, I'm happy for Celebration coming up, but I almost wish someone would do a Star Wars con. Have you ever been to RetroCon?
Yeah.
So RetroCon
at Oaks, PA. Yep.
Yeah, is basically like 70s, 80s. It's mainly 80s and 90s toys, but you almost wish someone would do a Star Wars con like that too, because there are so many people that just have cool stuff. Like we all of us collective probably have something in our collection that someone would just like to see.
Oh yeah, that's for sure.
I mean,
and not even necessarily. What was that, John?
Yeah, well, that's
mine's just hard to transport.
I'm just thinking a wall of your videos.
Yeah, I've been thinking about doing a like an epoxy table.
Ah, there you go. But then you'll be sad when you destroy them.
You're right. I might take the DVDs out and just use the cases. But
or you could just get random ones that aren't Star Wars. Use that as a mold, make the epoxy table, and then cheat and slide yours underneath. Like take them out and cheat and slide those underneath.
Ah.
Oh, wait a minute.
Anthony's here.
I saw that. There we go. There he is. Yes. Well, we're going to do a D&D game sometime in the near future. I can't promise anything till after we get Celebration and I finish the school year, but we should do a D&D game.
I have someone who'd be willing to DM.
Yeah, well, there we go. I mean, I have Zoe will DM as well if she has to. I'd like to play because I've basically been a DM. I played a little bit, but my character that I started with in 1979 is still around. So Thorin Mudbutt, So.
What's his name?
Thorin from Thorin Oakenshield, and then his last name is Mudbutt.
Mudbutt.
Yeah, I don't know how I came up with Mudbutt. I think because he was a dwarf and his butt was low to the ground. But
makes sense.
I think I started that character, so I would have been 10 or 11 when I started that character. And much older than that.
I haven't played in so long. I don't even think I would definitely need a warm up refresher. Well, it's been so long.
Nice is because of some loopholes when TSR sold to Wizards of the Coast, a lot of their material became public domain, and then other companies bought out and built some books. But I also have a whole bunch of stuff on PDF that when in that interim time, people were just loading like out of print stuff up on PDFs. So
that's awesome.
Get you your material that you need. But back to our podcasting thing and just seeing how it's growing, and I wish I would have had this. I wish I would have had this outlet, or even thought of this outlet when I was younger. Though my podcast would have really sucked because I taught podcasting in I want to say 2002, 2003 when it was first starting, and everything a good podcast does is exactly opposite of what I used to teach. So, we used to teach have a script. It was like it would be basically if you went back in time and taught old-timey radio, like have a script, no dead air time, speak with complete sentences, stuff like that. So I used to make those poor sixth graders write whole entire scripts for their podcast. I feel so terrible.
Well, that's also when we thought it had to be produced, where we thought it had to be like old-timey radio.
And there's nothing wrong. There are produced shows. There are.
Goodness, yeah.
And like what got me thinking about podcasts this week was I was thinking we have enough people we know that do enough podcasts, and there's podcast networks. But I keep saying this: we all need to make commercials for our podcasts and share them with each other, and just throw them on the end of the podcast. So like because then if someone likes Zoe's podcast, chances are they're going to like other podcasts that me or Zoe listen to. Zoe doesn't listen to them as much as I do. She just, but, and then you put them on the end. That's how you find more podcasts.
Well, actually, it's funny that you say that because I scripted a couple that could be inserted into the middle of shows.
Well, there you go. See?
Where it was kind of like, hey, wait a minute. So, like, let's pretend I had created one for Zoe's, and be like, hey, wait a minute, Zoe, do you have a minute? I want to interrupt your show for a second. And so it would be built that way that she could stick it in there, and then come back to the show afterwards.
But that's what we need. That's what I made my little TikTok video of John's, because I was this is probably the most nerdiest sentence I'll say tonight. Is I was listening to Lucas Arts soundtrack to the video game Outlaws from 1995, and I was like, hey, that would go really cool with John in his armor. So I just grabbed a couple pictures and made a quick little TikTok video.
If we were to do a Star Wars murder podcast, there'd be so many folks that would be on that list, either that did murder or were murdered. That would
be a well. So I don't think John has listened to it. Ken, I don't know if you listened when we did the Shakespeare podcast, right? Were you on the one?
I was on the Shakespeare podcast.
podcast. To me, that still goes down in history as one of my favorite podcast we did. And that was so John, have you ever, I know you're not the big fancy reader like us folks, no. I know you're not a big book guy, but have you ever read the Shakespeare Star Wars book?
Yeah.
We recorded it live with no practice.
It was so much fun.
Oh boy.
It
was so much fun.
And I wish I would have taken video of Marcus he was doing C-3PO and Obi-Wan at the same time, switching between voices. It was amazing.
That's awesome. You're gonna have to send that to me because I'll have to listen to that.
And then I think it was the second episode. One of the episodes we had more people that wanted to do it than we had parts for.
Yes.
People just like a teacher I work with who I don't think ever saw Star Wars or ever listened to a podcast saw it on Facebook. It's like, I'd like to do it. She didn't even know what it was. And that was, I think that was pre-Zoom too.
Oh, goodness, yeah.
That was just audio Skype, if I remember correctly.
I don't even think it was Skype. Yeah, I think we were using Clean Feed.
Maybe it was. Maybe it was. And we just did it just for the fun of it. So I don't know. That was I don't know. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, look at all these murder mysteries we got. Well, I wonder if the next point of that. So it's easy. Like, I'd like to do another one of those readings, but I wonder if we take Anthony's idea and you do a Star Wars murder mystery, but you only have the basic framework and you do it almost like freestyle.
Well, to go back to your idea of reading something, what if we got some of those golden books?
Oh, yeah.
And read some of those golden. They now have like a whole series of Star Wars golden books.
I have some of the old ones.
The old Star Wars golden books.
I have some. Well, I don't. Yeah, like Chewie's Adventure or something like that. With those, I think I made TikToks on those with the little creatures. They were like, I forget what they're called.
Hoojibs. They showed up in the Book of Mandalorian. Or no, sorry, the Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah, I did. I took
the Book of the Mandalorian. I'm getting it all twisted.
Freudian slip.
Yeah. Well, what was it? It was the second act of the Shakespeare. R2 actually had dialogue. Remember that?
Yep.
He was like the narrator. All of a sudden my whole screen just went full size. Oh my God. I can't keep. We have a lot of chat here.
I'll be back here in 2 seconds.
No problem. Oh yeah. There we go. I need like a job where I could have just like one extra day off a week just to do podcasts.
Well, some places are going to 410s, but I don't think you can do that in school.
Not in school. Those parents. When we ended last year with just the kids having Wednesday off, and we would be in school and like it was, and those parents hated it. Those parents like, please take our kids for 5 days.
Could we get 6 out of you? What do you think, teachers? You're not doing anything on Saturday.
Yeah. No, but I'd like to get in more in the video podcast. What has held us up in the video podcast was the technology at first. And then second, there's been a few times when the girls have had guests and they've requested not to do video. Like,
oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, like when they did E.K. Johnston, she just wanted audio. The few times, I think Vanessa Marshall, at least the one time, just wanted audio. The Freemakers, when they did theirs, they were just doing audio. So,
well, one of our guests, I'm pretty sure that for our, when we talked to the Kenner guys, one of the guys couldn't get on video.
No, yeah. Well,
technology struggles. That was probably my favorite one that we've done so far.
There we go. See, Anthony's keeping us alive here. We have 77's not here tonight.
Yeah, I wonder what he's up to. He may not remember that it's Wednesday.
Yeah, he does have calendar issues.
He's got a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
I'm glad to see the e-girl's back.
Yeah.
I don't think she was with us last time.
I don't think so. But we were. Whoops. All right. What did I just do? Oh, there we go. I don't know. I can't keep track. Can't keep up with the.
So thanks to you, I downloaded some of the Outlaws from LucasArts.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah.
And because the World Wide Web is as wacky as it is, I stumbled across some of the video game music for Star Wars. So I downloaded some of those too.
Nice. Yeah, the old 16,
like the Super NES, the synthesizer kind of stuff.
Oh man, I just remember the first time I saw I think it was the Atari with the AT-ATs and stuff, and I just thought that was so cool. And now you look at it, you're like, I held out with the standalone video games at the arcades for the longest time, mainly because we just couldn't afford a system. Like there was no, and then I missed out on Nintendo altogether. Like that was somehow I skipped that whole stage. I went to my computer stage, and now I'm still looking for wires for Anthony because I found a whole bunch of old computers. So I give him the oldest laptop I think I've ever owned. It weighs like a ton. You could use it as self-defense, I think.
Or an anchor if we would need to hold down our inflatable Falcon.
Yeah.
Because they don't sell sandbags with it.
Yeah.
Or they don't give sandbags with it. You got to buy those separate.
Sandbags. Yeah, I shot another email out to the Inflatable Falcon people. I think that we're probably just going to the wacky pile. Like they're like, yeah, these people are nuts. So we have to make a field trip to their company store in the United States here somewhere. But I mean, what I was saying with the podcast is I'm really into this cross promoting and just make it, something. Again, like I don't know if we do it it's fun to look at the charts and it's fun to look at all of the, how people are doing, but the numbers are so misreported, and it's hard to know who's telling you what.
Yeah.
No wonder my thing is on the wrong thing here. Yeah, here we go. What's this? DSI. Yeah. Well, I think our e-girl is way younger than most of us. Because I think that was probably one of my kids' first ones. So we didn't have the hand. We had the handheld Kenner. No, was it Kenner?
Who did the baseball game or the football game? Do you remember those?
Yeah. What was that? Mattel Electronics.
It might have been Galoob.
Yep, I had the white football one.
Yeah, where it was literally just red lines.
Yep.
And
no skip. Once you learned the pattern, it didn't matter, and you just had fast and slow. So, but yeah, there we go. So there we go. But yeah, I think we've networked, because if you look at the pot, just sitting here between now, I know John's doing stuff, but you, John, me, there's whatever we call this. Eventually, I should just put an anchor feed up for this one. We have enough hours of recording time.
We have enough hours in recording time in 3 recordings.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we could just split it up into, if we did half-hour episodes, we're on episode 100.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, let's be accurate. We had one episode that was 4.5 hours, wasn't it? Or was it?
Right.
It was over 4. I remember that.
Well, this podcast is making me, this table I'm using is bar height. I'm going to actually lower this because I'm sitting on these stools that I might as well just like sit on a cinder block. So I'm going to lower it and buy one of those fancy chairs you kids use because of this podcast.
Well, think about how many, going back to the people that we know, how many podcasters has Zoe and Lizzie interviewed? I mean, they got Sal and his family. Don't they have a couple podcasts?
Well, Sal and they have one, but then Sal's on every podcast. Like you haven't made it until Sal's been on your podcast. I mean, that's the work.
See, I've been trying to figure out how to drum up the courage to start asking some of the people we know to actually be on our show as guests.
Yeah, that's always the tough part. I mean, but sometimes you have to pull that trick of like talking to them and find out when they're not busy, and then say, hey, guess what?
Yeah, but the thing with that is I don't talk to Sal. I'd listen to him a lot.
Yeah.
I feel like I know him and his family, and I've never exchanged words with him ever. I've seen him, like I know I've seen him at Celebration. I know for a fact I've seen him and his family at Celebration, but I've never ever talked with him.
Yeah. Well, I will. I'm gonna try to remedy that. I'm gonna try to get him on here. I just know, like right now, he's probably in the same boat as most of us is, like in celebration mode. I am sure he's getting 20 costumes ready because he lives there, so he's getting a bunch of costumes ready and stuff like that. So, but yeah, we definitely have to get Sal on there, and then I got to get Colin back in the swing of things. I think Colin and a bunch of people. I mean, I know I was lucky enough, and some other people were lucky enough that as bad as the COVID shutdown hit and hurt some people, I think some people it just messed up their plans. Like it threw ours off a little bit, but it didn't. I was lucky enough to not have to worry about certain things where I think a lot of people just threw everything off.
Yeah.
But yeah, between that and I'm trying to think of the other part, like trying to think, and if we like the Mandalorian Mercs have a podcast.
They have a podcast. I just don't know how often it comes out.
Right, but see, that's where like I think sometimes as podcasters you get burnt out because you work just as hard every week, and you don't feel it's like a slow burn sometimes. Because you don't feel not that any of us do it for anything other than just our own enjoyment, but there are some times where you feel like you're just going through the motions and stuff. And I think sometimes like I know the 501st Cast and I listen to 501st Cast. I occasionally listen to Mando Mercs. I thought it was on my subscription, but it's not.
How often does it come out? Because I didn't think it had that regular of a frequency.
No, and that might be why it's not on my subscription anymore. Because there for a while, I was having so many podcasts that I just had to clean it up, because I get, you listen to one and they have a guest from another show and then you add that to your list. And then my list just got to be unmanageable. So I had to go back through and like, well, I haven't seen a new one come out for so long. So that's probably why I got booted off of mine. And because
with all the podcasts that you listen to, have you ever gotten to be like I don't mean any insult by what I'm about to say, but like a snob related to podcasting. Like you listen to a little bit, like, yeah, that's not for me.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I don't know if I'd call it a snob, but there's a style. Definitely a style that I like in certain content, and there's certain podcasts I listen to that I realize I can't believe I'm listening to this, but I enjoy it. You know, like I like freeform overall,
Mm-hmm.
and well, now I can add John to that. I rarely listen to a podcast that just has one person. Like they just don't. A lot of times they don't go over well for me. But I like John because he has a guest, and I like Steele Saunders. That's the only two I listen to that just have a singular host.
Okay.
Maybe when you start yours, Ken, then I'll have three.
Okay.
You know.
And I've had some of the ideas that have bounced around in my head is this idea of very similar to the Beskar bucket, except it would be simply for folks who wear armor in their costumes, and it'd be like under the armor.
Oh,
so talking to the people about what got them into costuming, what kind of events they've gone to, what are the memorable moments that they've had, what they did to build their costume, because I think sometimes that often gets lost. Some folks look at a costume and say, "Oh, you bought all of that."
mm-hmm.
Yet some of them, people have put a lot of hours and effort into making their costumes what they are. I mean, Chuck is a wonderful example of that. We talked with Chuck the one night, and I think he's up to maybe 6 costumes now.
Yeah.
The guy's a machine. I wish I could be as cool as Chuck. And if you're listening, Chuck, please know how much I adore you. But he just recently cobbled together the parts for a Cobb Vanth.
Yeah, that Cobb Vanth looks too.
So it's amazing how some folks just have that knack, that rhythm to get these things going. I get the ideas and put them on paper, and then it just becomes another idea next to another slice of paper.
Well, I guess that's better than what happens with me is I get the idea for them. I either get them printed or get the parts and then just don't finish them.
Yeah, 3D printing is its own worst nightmare sometimes.
Yeah, because I've got all of the hard parts. Actually, I think I've got everything but the boots and the cape for my and the leather goods for my custom Mando kit.
Mm-hmm.
I've got the knees, the shoulders, and the gauntlets just sitting in my garage with Bondo on them. I just haven't had the desire to sand them. Same with my Stormtrooper. I'm at the same spot I was in the middle of March.
The TK you'll be surprised once you sit down. That's the TK when I first did it was difficult, and then but once you do 3D printing parts, you realize how easy ABS is to work with. So no, but I mean, when you're saying your podcast about the buckets and stuff like that, behind the or under the buckets, that's a good idea, because I think we get so accustomed to it that we forget that not everyone understands that. Like, that's what people like to hear, because we live in, I think I said on this podcast before, but our society is becoming silos of what we do. And people forget, like, we're in our Star Wars armor building silo, and there's probably someone, on my block or where you guys that have no clue that world even exists.
Oh, that is for sure.
Yeah.
Missy, when we first started trooping in 2007, and we go to all these events, and it was a little more niche back then because there wasn't many people making armor. It was still like rare to see. There was no other costuming groups around. But Missy would stand back and she'd be taking pictures, and she would hear people talk. And even back then, they thought we were all paid actors. Like, we were all paid being costumed by whatever company was doing it, and they didn't understand that whole, what we do. And that's kind of neat. Plus,
what's funny is that we pay to do it. We pay to build the costumes, and the three of us know what that cost is. And if Heather ever asks me, I will never give her the exact amount.
Well, it's
mostly funny because I can't count all of those bits and parts.
Well, it is funny when you're with costuming people because you'll say, "Oh, this cost X amount of dollars," or this, and we like, "Oh, that helmet that was $100," and we say $100, like not that any of us are rolling around in money, but your values of what you spend money on. Like I'll sit and in my mind argue over buying like a $10 polo shirt to wear to work, but they'll be like, "Well, that helmet visor will cost you 75." Okay, well, I need it.
Can I have two? Because I just in case I mess up the first one or I get another helmet.
Yeah.
Yeah, like for example, today I was kicking around. So the Galactic Armory has a Patreon, and I was very much so kicking around the idea of subscribing to his annual membership. It's $150, but you get his entire library of 3D files and commercial rights. So toying around with that, but I can't fully commit to that, but yet I'll go drop $150 on parts to fix a costume that I already have.
Yeah, and that's what people like to hear. So we used to do armor panels at Steel City, and this is what I think got some people a little irritated with me, is because all they wanted to do was talk about the money. And when you just talk about the money outside of the whole view of like what you were saying, Ken, wearing the armor and trooping and what it brings to you, we all sound like idiots. When you sit there and say, "Well, I have this Darth Vader that cost me $4,000," people are looking at you like, "What is wrong with you?"
Yeah, we need to commit you now.
Yeah, but that's how it is with every hobby. Like if every hobby was on a spreadsheet, we would all just like come home and sit and stare at a blank wall.
Yeah, think about how much. One of the comparisons I'll make is, Star Wars fans versus sports fans. Sports fans will spend hundreds of dollars either on the merchandise or the tickets to go watch these other people play a game that they're not playing.
Yep.
And
there's nothing wrong with that, because I know John is
Yeah, you're checking two boxes here for me.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like they'll do that, but nobody bats an eyelid when they say they spent however much money to go to that game and buy a hot dog and whatever. But when we say we spent $200 on a custom Mando helmet, like, what are you, nuts?
Yeah. Well, and again, it comes back to those silos where people don't understand. Like when I used to play paintball, we were carrying hundreds and hundreds of dollars and all that kind of stuff, on ammo and helmets and all that, and no one knew that world existed. And so it's neat when you can let people in, and that's like I've said to Marty and Choo Choo that they should do a droids podcast, but you need a co-host. Like you need one host that knows all about droid building and one that knows very little, so that person can ask the questions for the audience about droid building. And I sometimes think for the like I like what John's doing with his people that are kind of like his first one with them talking about Star Wars and coming into the fandom and stuff. So, I mean, it's just so many angles of podcasts which to me are just so neat, to bring people in.
Yeah, we need more ignorance in this community.
Yeah,
we need more people who don't know about it, so we can tell them all about it.
Well, I think to that line of ignorance, we need folks who are open to what's there, rather than be fed that there's only one way to view it.
Yep.
And it's one thing to explain it. It's another thing to say you need to think this way, or you need to believe what I believe. Because I think that's one of the things that we were so fascinated with when we first saw Star Wars, whatever the first time was. It was fresh, it was new, it was exciting, and there was probably someone with us who helped explain parts. I mean, I saw it as a kid, so adults had to explain certain aspects of it. Even though they may have been watching it fresh with me, they were explaining certain things to me that I didn't understand because I was a kid.
Yep.
Now it seems like the opinions that folks share become the facts, which aren't necessarily one and the same.
Well, that's why I like the Mando Mercs armor party, because there's always that one person that's like their first armor party.
Yeah.
And they're like showing up with like their tub of stuff,
How do I put these puzzle pieces together? I bought this on the internets, and I don't know where this goes. And it's one of the things I'll also say about the costume groups is they've in the last year or so, they've gotten much better at being helpful. They've gotten much more open to assist. And I think part of that was because they were starting to see that if they continued doing what they were doing, there would be nobody else in the group.
Correct.
They were creating this environment where folks didn't want to join, that folks didn't want to get involved because they saw the silliness and the unnecessary behavior and attitudes.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. That's and because the way it is now, 15 years ago, you needed the groups. There was nowhere to get resources. But now you can be a one-man show, and that's a terrible way to be. I feel blessed to be surrounded by Star Wars people and stuff like that. So, but there's a lot of people that are out there doing it all alone.
Yeah, Blake just asked if we heard about Grammar Rodeo. That's going to be very, very interesting. That was a surprise that came out this week.
Oh yeah, well, and there's also. Did you hear about the new Ashley Eckstein show?
That I did not hear about. Tell me more.
I'm so out of the loop. I haven't heard about either of these.
On Star Wars YouTube, she's doing a show on mindfulness, all based on Jedi teachings from the movies.
Really? Do you think that's an extension of Amy Radcliffe's book?
Possibly, but I think it's probably, at least from what I heard, it's like a little more in depth, like a little more, like a self-help show, like mental health, it's on. I think it's on Star Wars YouTube, if I remember correctly.
Do you think they're going to do more episodes of Ahmed Best's Jedi show?
I don't know. I don't know how that show went over. Like I feel like that show was misplaced. I feel like that should have been a Disney Plus show.
Okay.
I mean, I just that would have been a good kid show. Like, again, I'm still thinking Disney should look at their YouTube and see if they can put a certain amount of those shows in front of the paywall. And then I don't know. It just seems odd when you're spreading your resources to me. I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah, I don't know how all that stuff works.
I don't either.
It's a lot of fancy math and statistics.
I just middle school, so what do I know?
But yeah, this Grammar Rodeo that Blake is talking about is supposed to be either written and directed or somehow involved with John Watts from the Spider-Man films.
Oh, okay.
I did see that headline. I didn't know what it was. I realized that was the same thing.
Gotcha.
Blake's one of my robotics team members, so he's on top of it.
Gotcha.
So he doesn't like the sequels, but so I won't hold that against him.
Yeah, so it seems like this week there was a bunch of different announcements. I can't even begin to imagine what's going to show up on show up at Celebration.
Oh, I can't wait. I gotta find all my juice packs. I gotta find all my SD cards for my 3D camera. I gotta figure out where
charging bricks. Don't forget charging bricks.
Yeah, that's my juice. I call them juice block.
Oh, okay. I thought you were actually talking about carrying around juice boxes.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna carry around some Capri Sun, and I'll still go get a Hobie shirt from the '80s. And some what are they?
A pocket full of Gushers.
Yeah, some parachute pants, and some.
Don't forget your juicy fruit.
Yeah, some juicy fruit and some. What's that? Big League Chew.
No, here's a silly question related to Celebration. When
Yes.
you go, do you pick up the free swag at the different tables?
No, not really.
What?
It depends on what it is. It depends on what it is. Like because look at my house. I have too much crap, and I don't want to be that guy who takes that one thing and some little kid could have had it. You know what I mean? Like it depends on what it is. Like I took I got like a thing for your badges one time, and I get like the posters, but I don't even know if I'll get posters anymore because I have a whole box of posters. I don't have enough wall space to hang them on. I have to buy a whole new house just to hang. Like honestly,
at the Mandalorian setup, they have some great posters that they hand out every year.
I know. Well, I'll see what they have. Like I've honestly, all these stores going out of business, I've kept trying to buy a poster rack. You know where you buy posters.
Uh-huh.
I keep trying to find one of those at one of these stores going out of business to put posters in. Just put them. So people can just come and flip through my posters.
This is my poster nook.
Yeah.
You mean like on the little swinging arm?
Yeah, with the swinging arm. That's what I mean. I still have posters again. I don't know what to do with it. And now when I have a wall of posters. When the interior of the Falcon goes, I have to take all those down because the one side of my house, I want it to look like you're in the Falcon. I don't want anything else in there. So that whole one side of my room, I lose. There's at least 10 posters on that wall that I lose.
I mean, I'll admit I still have posters that I haven't put on walls since we bought them at Celebrations past. Yeah. So I understand what you're saying. I was just trying to talk him into getting some stuff for us, John, but I guess he didn't fall for this.
I will get free swag for any, but it has to fit in my bag because what they start charging for bags to go on an airplane anymore.
Like, you see what he's standing in front of, John? You see that thing over there in the corner that he stole from Celebration?
Yeah.
I didn't steal it. Guard said I could take it, but I also had my van then. Imagine if I was on the airplane and tried to get home.
Just under one arm.
This is my carry-on.
It fit. It slid right into the minivan, up to the front of the car, and went all the way back between the seats.
I like how you phrase it. He said I could take it.
I asked. Well, it was like no, because there was like a it said enter here, and it had Princess Leia's face on it. And there was a couple, the signs going in from the hotel.
Yep.
The show wasn't even over, and people were yanking those out of the thing. Like it was like hours before the show ended, and then I went back. I just went back to take some pictures of the empty thing, because I was sad it was over. And people were like carrying stuff off, and that thing was standing there. And I said, the security guard was just standing there. I said, "Can I have that?" And he's like, "Sure." So I walked, like,
Yeah, you asked the minimum wage employee who has nothing to do with the event.
I guarantee every single one of those signs went in a dumpster, because even the display of the what was the beach planet from Rogue One?
Scarif.
Guys were saying most of that went in the dumpster. Remember that big display?
They were the huge diorama that they spent days building.
They were letting people take the diorama, but the one guy was saying, because I was walking around where they were tearing stuff down, and they were tearing it down and throwing it in those big gray carts.
What?
Ooh, I'm sorry to all of our listeners who were involved in building Scarif.
I know. Is
that part of the Tarkin initiative?
Yeah, Toga got a bunch of pieces. No, they were letting people take pieces, but this was like 2 hours, 3 hours after it was all done.
Oh my goodness!
So we didn't leave till the next morning, so I just walked. They were just letting people in. There was like they were just like throwing them into big bins. Because I wanted to see them tear down the Falcon. They tore that in that tank. That tank came down like
the hover tank.
Yeah, it was just all big foam blocks on it. It just came down.
Wow.
So that didn't get thrown in.
I'd hope not.
But no, but a lot of that. That's how when I used to do Warhammer, they used to have big fancy Warhammer tables they'd set up in Baltimore, and they would throw all those in the trash too.
Man.
So.
Make sure you get, if you're around the Twin Suns room on Sunday, see if you can get pictures of Tom Spina from Regal Robot and the two guys from the Blast Points podcast, Jason and Gabe.
Okay.
They're doing a show with Amy Radcliffe, Tom Spina,
as long as it's not 12:30.
Kirk Thatcher.
It's at 12, so at 12:30 is Zoe's podcast.
On Sunday?
Yeah, 12:30 to 1:30, and then from 2 to 3 is father and son. That's
in the Twin Sons room.
No, in the podcast room. So I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying so, but
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna try to go around and hit a lot of the stuff. The one I know, the one guy who works for Regal Robot, Gordon Tarpley.
Yeah, he's the guy who dressed like C-3PO.
Yeah, he's the one that built Safi's shorts. I got to know him. He's the one that did the shorts for Safi's.
He was also the robot in the Ahmed Best show on YouTube.
Yes, not the voice, just the robot. Yes. So they should have just used a protocol droid for that.
Yeah, but then you wouldn't have had to make a new cool robot.
I guess. I just, that would have, but I like that show.
So I'm going to ask you a question that I would ask Zoe if she were here with us. How does she manage to get such cool guests on her show? So you set up all the guests.
I pester the shit out of people.
So you're the person I need to talk to get people on our show then.
So, and it's probably slightly easier, and it was easier when they were younger because I was pestering for, 14, 15-year-old girls to be on the show. But it just comes down to...
I don't think you should say that on the podcast ever again.
Okay. But it was... Yeah, that's true.
You're going to have to rephrase that.
Yeah,
that just...
my daughters were younger, and it was easier. No, it was polite persistence is the best way to put it. So like the it was just, I just searched and found people. Like I'd find someone who knew someone, and then I would just gradually, and it would just be polite, and it would just be it would almost every message I would send, especially people I didn't know, it was basically a thank you notice. It was like thanking them for what they do for the fans. This is what I do, and then what can you, and then if you can't, I understand. And then I would just always follow that up, just randomly at different times, and occasionally, you get them on the right time,
Gotcha.
And I've had way more rejections, and way more people that just kind of string you along, which irritates me too. Like if they're famous and they don't want to deal with some idiotic podcast, I'd rather them either just not answer me, or something. But the ones that say, yeah, I think I can, how about this month? And then that month comes along and they'll be like, well, okay, I'm really busy this month, how about this? And then they do that for like 8 months, and I'm just like, oh, come on, but it's just, and you take steps, like you find like the people you kind of know. For like when I met some people at Celebration, I kind of used that to, hey, like Chris Bartlett, I remember I bought Jawa robes from you in 2007. And
do you think Matt Martin would be on our show?
I see. Now he works for Lucasfilm. Lucasfilm is tough.
Oh, okay.
So, and Matt Martin's one of those ones that's a friend of mine that I never ask Star Wars stuff. I've never asked him to be on because I have like a friendship with him in the sense. But I know when you go through Star Wars people, it's much more difficult, the ones that are currently employed.
Gotcha.
Because they'll get you like, they'll say, well, they might be able to, but they can only talk about this, and you can only get them for 20-some minutes or something like that. Where if you get the people that aren't, like if you get like Dominic Pace or someone like that that's the people to start with.
Gotcha.
Because they're a lot more easygoing. And like Dominic Pace, just from his relationship with Amando Merckx, like he would be a good one to start with for you.
Gotcha. Because
he's on the periphery and he still does stuff, but he's such a great guy for the fans, But yeah, I mean, you find out what social media they're active on.
Uh-huh.
So like Dominic Pace is both on Facebook and Instagram. So I just went to him on Facebook, and I got him like right before the pandemic, I think.
Gotcha.
And I'm still trying to get a couple people like that people suggested, and they just don't answer me. So I just keep, I
like the folks from the Inflatable Falcon, really.
Oh yeah, well, and the Inflatable Falcon people, I'd probably put less effort into right at the moment, but there for a while, I would just that would be part of my day. Look, hey, I'm just going to send an email. It's like, you never know. That's it. It looks, it's not hard work, but there's an approach. 50, I think there's 50 failures for everyone that shows up, like at least, and it's just one of those things. I'm just like, hey, it doesn't hurt to send a nice email, and then eventually I think sometimes I just sent so many out that they were like, hey, I think I've heard of this guy before, not realizing that I probably emailed him like 30 times.
Well, do you think when Kathleen Kennedy's done with Celebration that she'd be willing to come on and talk with us for a little bit?
I don't see why not. Just ask her.
I mean, she listens to our show. She's one of the regular listeners.
Just say, hey, No, but I also think like most of those people are just like they're just like us, and it's just how you approach them. I think there's a lot of people that just badger. You can badger someone nicely, and not be a nuisance to them, and that's what I try to do. Oh, here we go. Here, Blake got a.
Nice, taking up some of my real estate here at the bottom of the screen.
I know. I had to put the Beskar bucket there on that.
I think that's a very interesting approach to the show. It'll be something new, something fresh.
Yeah, I think it's. I'm shocked that they're not going like the route of essentially just making it a show about Luke's Jedi Academy, because I mean that would be the perfect time to do so. But I feel like with deepfake Luke though, you can only go so far. You can only shoot so many minutes from the back of Mark Hamill's head.
Yeah. Well, I also think they're in some ways possibly trying to wean the fans off of Luke and them and try to get characters, you know what I mean? Like, because there's some kids who Mando is going to be their Star Wars guy. They don't really like Luke isn't, I still would like to see like a Harry Potter type Star Wars Academy. Like have just some no-name kid come in, and
well, the thing with an academy though is you need a teacher or a group of teachers and
do
stuff like that.
Do it in the High Republic era.
Oh, okay.
Because if you're going to introduce all new characters, like if it's the High Republic stuff is really good, and just because then you still have Yoda, you still have that connective thread of Yoda, so throw in a little Yaddle. You could almost make it like
no matter how much of Yaddle you threw in, it would be little.
Yeah, Yaddle. What's the snake guy?
That's a good one.
What, the Goonies? Blake's too young to know about 80s shows.
I don't know. John Watts, in my personal opinion, is a touch overrated. I think he gets a lot of nostalgia hype because he does a lot of callbacks to like Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yeah,
and that genre of movies.
How about Han Solo's Day Off? we just remake every old movie, but just put Star Wars it up.
Yeah.
Well, in that case, you should start doing the ones with like feature the aliens.
Yeah.
Like Prune Face Day Off.
Yeah.
I mean, and just so you know that the snake guy, that's Rancesis.
Okay. No, you know what? Instead of that, it should be Grogu's Day Off, and it should be the day they destroy the temple.
Oh God. Grogu's
goofing off, I mean, it goes back to my other movie, where I Weekend at Sheev's, like that would be my other movie. That's my fan film from years ago, where two of the Death Star technicians caught dead Sheev's body when it fell down the shaft, and then they lived a couple weeks like they were with the Emperor, and he was alive. Like Weekend at Bernie's.
And they somehow got his corpse to Exegol.
They just hung it around. John's turned his camera off. That was so bad.
His eye roll is apparent even without his camera showing.
Wait a minute. Have you seen the house? I have not seen. I don't know what TikTok video they're talking about.
It's just cold. I had to put sweatpants on, and I didn't feel like turning everything off. And I'm right next to my dresser, so the camera was easiest.
And I know Blake said he saw Goonies, so I know I'm not lying about my age. I've never seen Goonies.
Overrated. Terrible movie.
I've never seen Goonies, so I was a one.
I disagree with both of you.
I was just like a one. Once I saw Star Wars, it had to be Star Wars-esque for me to even see it, and that wasn't Star Wars enough for me.
What?
I know.
I was in line for Friday the 13th tattoos with a buddy of mine, and he and I were talking about the Goonies and my total distaste for it. And I got yelled at by another guy standing in line as to how Goonies is one of the greatest films ever created. And I just sat there and took it. I didn't even have a retort.
I just never saw it. I mean, I'm sorry.
So he puts that up there with like Schindler's List, and
Citizen Kane. It's the Citizen Kane of the '80s, I guess.
Metropolis. Look, all of those.
Yeah. See, I had Star Wars, and I think the only movie that I really wanted to see that I never saw in the theaters in the '80s was the Battlestar Galactica movie, but we didn't have a Sense-Around theater. Remember that? They made a Battlestar Galactica movie it was called Sense-Around, and it made the seats move and all that kind of stuff.
See, I think for this one, Blake, I think the idea of a Sith Lord infiltrating the Senate, I think can be simplified in that much of what Sheev didn't rely on his Force ability.
Yeah.
He took advantage of fear and greed and manipulation and people questing power. You don't need to be a Sith Lord to get people to do stupid stuff.
Well, and I think George Lucas was a better study of real history and real people, because most empires that fall, they hand the keys to the people that destroy them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like, I think that the great thing about Sheev and what he did was, I think, and Lucas wanted to point out, was that the Jedi basically doomed themselves. And he just knew he was like, well, they don't want to be warriors, but if I make them generals, they'll be, and they took to being generals pretty quick. Like there was, they, and yes, what, oh yeah. Yes, these are all of our opinions. Yes. We are not saying any of these are bad. We just, part of the fun is to disagree, but yes. But I've never seen Goonies, so I and like Stand By Me, I only saw about half of it. So
Stand By Me is good.
Yeah, I just again, like when I was a kid, I guess I'm the same. Look at the room I'm sitting in. I'm a very one-track mind kind of person. Like in certain movies, when I especially when I was younger, if someone wasn't getting blown up or there wasn't a spaceship in the first couple minutes, I was probably not going to watch it.
And it also really comes down to what you define as good, because what you think is good in one film may not be the same good in another. There are people who really enjoyed the Night of the Museum movies, and there are other people who really enjoyed Swingers, and there are other people who really enjoyed the original animated Jungle Book, but they didn't like the live action version of it.
Well, and that's why you go to like what's nice about the movies is we all go for different reasons on different days. Like to me, I enjoy going to the movies. Like I enjoy, and I think part of the reason why I like the newer Star Wars movies, it wasn't, because I love Star Wars, of course, but one of the really nice things, and it's the same feeling you get with a Marvel movie as well. Most of the people that are there really like it. Like you don't just happen to like, hey, what are we going to see, and roll into a Marvel movie or a Star Wars movie. There are movies that you might just go see, like, hey, there's nothing else showing, and let's go see it. But when you're in especially in a Star Wars movie, one of the opening weekends, everyone there is there because they love it. And when that whatever comes across the screen first, everyone's excited about. I mean, when the man, my mind just went blank. Well, when all the last ones, but when Rogue One came and the Lucasfilm logo came up, like people just went nuts just for that, you know.
Yep.
And Solo, when you saw the Falcon in the lockup, you know, I mean, I don't know. It's just, you could feel it with all the people there. They were just excited to see it with you.
I think one neat thing about going back to Blake's comment, which will be fun, is to hopefully get to see more of the dark side of things, because we don't really get a lot of that in the movies. Most of them focus on the heroes side of things, or they show the hero's story much more than the other side. So I think Acolyte's going to be a very interesting twist, a different point of view that we haven't seen before.
You'll get to see I think you'll get to see the cutthroatness. Like the Jedi has always had that camaraderie with each other. Like you had Anakin and Obi-Wan, or you had Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, or even Yoda and every other Jedi. You know, they always had some sort of camaraderie, and from what we know about the Sith, you don't have that's your competition. Like,
yeah, that's a huge difference.
Yeah,
there's this sense of helping, whereas with the Sith or the folks who focus on the dark side of things, it is competition. It's I want to accumulate more, or I want to be more than the next person. I mean, if you look at Sheev, you know, he practiced the rule of two or whatever, and his apprentices had stuff on the side. I mean, Dooku had Savage, Dooku had Asajj, and he was going to use those apprentices at some point to take over from Palpatine. And
they always had that one, like in the comic book, like Sheev is always sending people out to try to kill Vader, or at least keep him, you know, and Vader's building his little secret things with you know, and yeah, it's that cutthroatness, and then that makes a loneliness, you know.
Yeah, you bet, because you're always looking over your shoulder,
right?
There's that sense of someone is out to get me, either the person who quests for what I have, or the people who want to stop me from getting more.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, and you need their help. Like the Emperor needs his help. The Emperor needs Vader's help, but he wants to make sure that Vader doesn't become too powerful.
Yes.
Blake's comment is good, but it also brings up a good point with that book coming out, Timelines. That's coming out. They have a book of timelines, I think, coming out.
Really?
In the near future, I think. Hang on a minute. Hey, Zoe, when does that Timelines book come out? Okay, well, there's a book of timelines coming out. And what I'm hoping is it gives general timelines. So when you watch, like I'm in my mind, I picture color code, you know. So they have these you open up this book and it has a nice chart of all the timelines. And then a movie comes out and it'll just have a little light green up in the corner. So you know, oh, it takes place in this timeline.
Oh, okay.
Like when
and see the overlaps of them.
Yeah.
I just learned it comes out in the fall.
Okay.
In November.
So
I apologize for typing while you were talking.
That's all right. I have like 3 screens. I'm trying to learn this whole thing here, but yeah, I mean, and then to circle back around to our podcast is, so we have a couple people listening. I don't know how many people are listening on Facebook or anything like that, but what's nice about it is all this stuff that's being put out there. Whatever show comes out next is going to spawn some podcasts.
Yeah.
And then those because you can just look down the list of Star Wars podcasts and you can say, hey, look, these came out when Rebels came out. Because when Zoe started hers, Rebels was season 2, I think, or something like that, or whatever, you know, right before the episode.
Yeah, and some of the podcasts will be thematic. I mean, some of them they'll just do reviews of this show. They'll review the the Clone Wars cartoon, or they'll review the Book of Boba Fett or whatever.
Yep.
So even though it's the same topic,
yeah,
it's not necessarily talking about that same material from the same perspectives.
and there's a mix of what's nice about podcasts. So in general, like you, I look at yours and John's both are kind of those evergreen podcasts in the sense that your podcast overall does not, it won't, it'll 5 years from now, if someone listens to it, it's just going to be just as enjoyable. You know, with John's, like his episode with his friend who just watched it, that doesn't change 5 or 6 years from now. And then you have the ones that are more current, and there's a place for those too, but they don't like, it's a little hard to hear, you know, someone's reaction to Rogue One years and years later after you've heard everyone else, you know what I mean? Or they might have talked about it for years and years. And there's nothing wrong with those either. It's like when I had to redo and listen to all of Zoe's podcasts, and they were neat to hear because they're like time capsules, you know, the fandom, but they're just different types of podcasts.
Yeah.
I'm interested for Taika Waititi's. I don't. Is he doing a trilogy or a series?
I think he's just doing a movie. I think he's doing just a movie.
Oh,
That's what I thought.
My biggest, I don't want to say concern, because I really like what Taika Waititi does. I hope he doesn't do what he did to Thor Ragnarok, and well, Thor as a character really, and just turn it into a massive joke. I hope there is some level of seriousness to it, because we haven't really had comedy in Star Wars, like guttural laugh comedy.
Yeah, I know. I see what you're saying. But see, I look at his, like, I wonder for him, like, if someone said you have to assign this person a movie, his would be Hondo.
Yes. Yes, 1,000 times yes.
That's who I would assign Taika Waititi's. I would assign him Hondo, because that's one that you could be laughing.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at some of his lines, especially in Clone Wars and stuff.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
It's hilarious.
We're pirates. We don't know what that means.
You know, so, you know, I mean, because he does a good Blackbeard in the new HBO show.
Mm-hmm.
Taika Waititi does in whatever that, I forget what it's, that pirate show. It's some long obnoxious name, but he plays Blackbeard. But I also wonder, I also wonder sometimes if we all have too much information nowadays on all who makes it. Like, it's nice and stuff, but like imagine if we would have had all the information about the directors for the first 3 movies. So you would have heard George Lucas, and you would have heard he only made a car movie and some weird sci-fi movie that most people didn't get. Imagine what they would have written on Twitter about him when he was making New Hope.
Well, I mean, go back to 2012 before he sold to Disney. He did an interview, I think, with, I don't know if it was the New York Times or something, where he was talking about, why am I doing this anymore? I make stuff and the fans hate it.
Yeah.
I mean, you could. There's an argument to be made that the fans are partially what led to the sale to Disney.
Yeah. Right, but I'm just saying, like, think of the information, because I don't make movies. I don't know anything about making movies.
Yes, you do. We've made movies.
Well, that's true. That's true. Yeah. So we have, you know. No, but I mean, like,
Typical actor, like disconnected.
I also think the people that are going to be making the more successful movies of Star Wars are going to have to balance their own skill set with what Lucasfilm wants. You know, because when it all comes down to it, it still has to pass whatever standards Lucasfilm wants. Because even with the different directors in The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett, you can see the slight difference, but they're not like going off the rails. You know, like if someone didn't tell me that different directors did Mandalorian, my untrained eyes, I probably couldn't tell. Like, I think I can tell now, but I think it's just because I know different directors did it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and to your point about the information, you've seen the makings of, and you've heard those people talk about what they did and why they did it. But if you simply just watch what's on screen,
yeah,
I don't think you'd be able to say, oh, this was Bryce Dallas Howard. This was,
right,
Robert Rodriguez and so on.
right. And like I said, and when we, so that's what I also put faith in Lucasfilm to keep, because it seems like with what they did with Solo, they won't let things go off the rails too much, so they did all the reshoots with Solo, and they even did it with didn't they do it with Rogue One as well?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it was a quarter of the movie was reshot, which is, I mean, it pales in comparison to the 75% that Solo went through.
Right.
But I think that's because you changed directors who had totally different visions for the character in the movie.
Right, and those movies could be the holiday special of the modern era of Star Wars, in the sense that all the things George Lucas learned not to do with his franchise, a lot of it he learned from the holiday special.
Mm-hmm.
Like he learned, hey, look, I better have my hands in this a little more, or I'm going to get something that I don't like. And maybe Lucasfilm learned, hey, it doesn't really matter how big the directors are, we have to keep, our hands in it to make it happen.
Well, so with that said, what are some of the aspects of Star Wars that you want to see remain? So, for instance, for me, one of the aspects of Star Wars that I want to see remain are the lessons and the philosophy that shows up in these movies, that they're more than just flashy lights and people in certain costumes, but when you take the time to look into it, there's more there. There's the coming of age stories, there's the hero's journey, those kind of things.
Yeah, I would say that's probably what makes Star Wars for me. Like that's like, because all of them, even the standalones, like Rogue One, as much as a lot of people say, it's like a sad story and stuff like that, it was that greater story told by like minor characters in a way.
Minor characters that resulted in doing major things.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like it's almost like they need to still. It has to stay well grounded in what George Lucas established as a study of human nature and history. That it has to stay well, and I think Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau have that. That's like they saw it, and I'm not knocking J.J. Abrams or anything, but I don't think he saw Star Wars in the same light that those two guys saw Star Wars.
Well, I think he did. I just don't think he had the benefit that Filoni had.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Filoni worked with Lucas for all of those years on Clone Wars. And so he was able to learn from Lucas some of those behind-the-scenes philosophies of Star Wars and practice what George practiced in terms of taking bits and pieces from movies that he liked and incorporating them into what's showing up on the screen. So, for instance, in the Book of Boba Fett with the train chase,
yep,
where the Tuskens were attacking the train, that was lifted partially from Lawrence of Arabia. So this classic movie that they took bits and pieces of that they liked, whether it's visually or thematically, and tucked it in there, borrowing from here and incorporating into there with new technology, with the Star Wars galaxy surrounding it.
Well, which on top of that, unrelated to what we're talking about, but the original Lawrence of Arabia train scene was filmed on the real train that was still laying out in the desert.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So but I also see. I think, like, to me, my opinion only, I think JJ looked at Lucasfilm more as a filmmaker and his technical filmmaking, because I think that's what, like, I think J.J. Abrams loves Star Wars and he likes all these movies, but I still get it in my head that J.J. was more into the movie making part as a form of storytelling, where George Lucas's storytelling came out through his movies, if that makes sense. And so, like, and I agree with you. Like I think Filoni was trained and stuff like that, but I also think Filoni and Favreau, because Favreau, you see it with when he did Iron Man. If you're a comic book guy, Iron Man, that first Iron Man story is almost scene for scene from the original Iron Man, just moderned up a little bit, And so there, because he understood what, depending, Stan Lee's Iron Man, or I know people argue that Stan Lee didn't create everything, but whatever. But he lifted that. It was a story of like human, like they stripped Tony Stark down. It was a deeper story than just some guy making an iron suit, where and I don't know. I hope I'm with you on that. I hope that's what they keep. I hope they keep that, And to be with Taika Waititi and Thor. So I used to read Thor a lot. I think, John, what I always took from the Taika's on Thor was Thor always in the comic book came off as a pompous ass that was like, he basically came off as like a rich kid that didn't know what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like his comedy, at least to me, the comedy kind of, it was how he brought Thor to the new Thor he was. Because when, that was my take on that from being a Thor guy.
See, I'm in the minority where I thoroughly enjoyed the first two Thor movies.
I did too.
So it was a stark contrast from those. Thor Ragnarok is still one of my favorite movies. I have the poster hanging above my bed. Yeah. No, I'm very excited for Love and Thunder. When you 180 from everything you've done up to a certain point, that's what it startles me. It concerns me.
Yeah, I only took the Thor is because the other heroes in the comic books used to make fun of Thor because like he was basically indestructible and didn't realize it, and he was kind of like that first, or one of the first scenes in the first movie when he's just throwing the mugs in the diner on the floor. Like mm-hmm. That's how it was with everything. Like everything was just at his beck and call. But Blake asked a good question. This is your favorite moment from anything in Star Wars, show or movie? I will say that probably all of us are going to say this changes over time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because for me, like I can think of a bunch, but the one that hits me the strongest lately is when Rey called the saber in Force Awakens. Because when that happened, I looked over and saw my girls watching a film that had an awesome, strong female character, and it was a moment for me.
And his follow-up question for you, Blake, is it in the movies that's our favorite moment, or
anything
experience with the movies?
Well, I'm saying I think it's anything Star Wars related.
So this isn't in the movies, but it's related to Celebration. So in Celebration 2017, that was the one in Orlando. My youngest stepson decided to stay up. Oh, in the movie or shows. Okay, I'll still tell the story anyway because I think you may get a kick out of it.
No, I think this is a good one.
So we stayed up overnight in the convention center. It was the first time he'd wanted to do that, and we managed to get into the big room for the opening panel, and we sat in the second row and got to see George Lucas, Harrison Ford, Kathy Kennedy, and the live concert with John Williams. And I was sitting next to my youngest stepson, who I also gave me this bracelet in 2015 that I've worn every day since they gave it to me. So for me, that moment of being in the auditorium with George Lucas, the maker, on stage, and I'm goosebumpy just talking about it. That's probably my favorite thing related to Star Wars. But I'll think about the movies or shows and get back to you. All right. How about you, John?
It's tough. I think So in the movies, I would have to say, probably just because I can quote it through and through, it probably has to be when Obi-Wan gets off of Padme's ship in episode 3 on Mustafar, and that whole confrontation before the Battle of the Heroes. That probably has to be my favorite moment in Star Wars, because it was the culmination of everything that had happened thus far.
Yeah, that's one of the moments I think that would stick with it with lots of Star Wars fans, really.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, and I go. What was that? Is that us?
Oh, that was my work phone. Sorry.
I Yeah, I mean, there's so many. Like, I'm trying to think, just movies alone. Like, I remember that one of the first times I saw. It was probably the first time I saw New Hope, when I saw the Sand Troopers, when they popped their head. Maybe it's because when I was a kid, everything was always dirty. Like, I was one of those dirty kids who just ran around in the dirt all the time. And I loved the stormtroopers, but man, when I saw that Sand Trooper hold up that little gear, they look so cool.
Look, sir, droids.
Like,
look, a penny.
Yeah, but also, I want to know where that fell off of, though. I'm just saying, like, where did that fall off? That's my only. But yeah, I mean, it's hard because I wish I knew. Like, I wish I would have paid attention more, if that makes sense. Like, if I knew something was going to be that big of a thing. Like, no one told me you're going to go see this movie, and everything you look at is going to be looked through this lens.
Yeah, nobody told you this is going to be the rest of your life.
Right. Well, John, with that TikTok video you did with your little kid view, that was like such a touching video, but that's how I feel. There's a picture of me trooping an event. We did an elementary event. It was me, Missy, Zoe. It was one of her first times in Sabine, and Safi was a Tuscan. And I was suiting up, and I looked, and I could see my whole family there. And that's the first time I ever thought that, man, 5th grade Mike would have had a much better life 5th through 12th grade if he knew someday I'd just be in this situation. And there is that. It's a hope. I mean, I know it sounds corny, but like, I'm looking here. Look at this. Here's another one of my favorite Star Wars moments. And
yep,
right here, right? Look at this. I don't think I can make these stupid Instagram pictures will not lift off of my thing, but if I can get that won't work. But yeah, I mean, look at that. We got 4 of us there, 3 of us in armor, and we got
Boom Boom.
But he's Boom Boom. I mean, like, there's just a lot of that picture sums up a lot of things. There's 3 people here from 3 different states, which without Star Wars, none of us would know each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Mike, you're the linchpin of it all.
So I've sort of been told. But again, it comes back to what I said earlier. Everything I liked and got made fun of all growing up is pretty much what holds me and all my friends together now. And so I'm glad our world has become a more accepting place in overall in most things. Because as much as it's nice to think back to the good old days when you were a kid, there was not much acceptance if you liked anything mildly different. Not too terribly long ago,
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I can even think of, me several times in my life not being overly accepting or of other folks and their opinions on stuff.
Well, and it's I mean, it's the world we've almost in some regards you evolved to that because that's in our past DNA. You had to you couldn't, if something looked different, you had to stay away from it because it could kill you. Like, oh, that that creature looks like us. Let's go see him. And then it shoot,
I think getting back to Blake's question, for me, it's not necessarily a favorite moment, but it was definitely a really, really, really powerful one. And it was from Star Wars Rebels. So there was a scene where Kanan was attempting to teach Sabine how to use a lightsaber, and she was struggling with it. And part of the experience, she just blurted out some of her personal history that hadn't been shared with anybody up until that point.
Yes.
And part of her story that came out was that she had left home. And part of the reason she left home was because she was afraid that her decisions were going to hurt her family, that her decisions were going to negatively impact her own family. And I can absolutely, positively relate to that as a person, because I left home at 16, partially because my actions were hurting my siblings. I experienced some major outbursts of anger, and it scared the bejesus out of me. And I was concerned that I was going to continue to go down that path. So instead of staying in a bad situation, I chose to leave my two brothers, my two sisters, my mother, and left home. So I know what that frustration is like. I know what that action of leaving to help somebody is like. So that for me is probably one of the most powerful moments in Star Wars for me as a person.
Well, and to add to that, that was also one of those scenes in Rebels that I liked. I didn't have as good of, I mean, I don't want to say good. I didn't have that connection you did, but it's nice when you have something, because I think the shows and Star Wars lore, it lets you experience emotions without risking yourself, if that makes sense.
You betcha.
You can suffer, you can almost practice suffering loss, like losing a loved one, or you can all this through fictional characters, that you can let it out and kind of protect yourself, and let you think through things.
Well, and also gives you the opportunity to talk about that sensation without necessarily having to talk about yourself.
Yep.
So you can talk about that story, that scene with somebody else, without necessarily divulging all of your details if you don't want to.
Right. Well, and sometimes yeah, because I know Star Trek was really good at this, and I know George Lucas watched Star Trek. The old Star Trek, they dealt with so many things in the 60s that other television shows couldn't do. They could deal with race and sexism and stuff like that and trick people. And that's what I like about Star Wars. It's teaching people how to be good people, and it's brainwashing the youth or whatever they want to say, but it's showing them a good blueprint. Tusken Raiders are the perfect example of, I was talking about someone at school this today. If you watch any old Western, probably pre 1960, if you just grew up watching those, you would have thought the Native Americans were the worst, terrible things, and if you left the fort, you were going to get killed and scalped and all this kind of stuff. They just portrayed them so terribly. And again, like in anything in history, there were some that weren't good. But there were people taking them as a whole, complex story. I think what they did with the Tuskens, where they started with in Mandalorian, brought it full circle in Book of Boba Fett. You've just taught a whole generation of how to look at indigenous people and what's happening to the plight of indigenous people without preaching it to them. So when that problem arises, they already have a blueprint of what could happen, what should happen, what shouldn't happen,
Well, and even not just indigenous people, just the other period.
Right.
The stereotypes, the biases that we have in the show we can see them from another perspective. And if we can practice it in the show, in the movie, what we're watching, that means we can also use that same thing in real life. And that's one of the other things that I truly hope stays with Star Wars from now until the end of time.
Right.
There are those lessons in there that are there if we just take the time to look at them, take the time to talk about them, take the time to understand them beyond just the pretty images on the screen or the high tech wizardry that is movie making.
Right. Well, right. And you know what I think part of what's nice is what they're doing with Disney Plus is they're laying it behind the scenes. So you're almost giving future directors, look, this is why we did stuff. So like if some director just comes out of the blue and they don't know anything about Star Wars, the people can say, look, here's your homework. Watch this. So you see the behind the scenes stuff. But yeah, I mean, the scene you were talking about with Sabine, I really love that too, because it was happening right when Zoe was at those teenage years and she dresses as Sabine. And Sal had a good conversation, like a good thing about this too, because same with Lizzie, like both our girls were at that age where they're coming on their own and they dressed as Sabine. So it kind of added a whole nother layer. So we have something from Twitch who I have no clue who this is. What Star Wars do you wish had a kissing scene? Well, I can honestly say, I've never thought of that question ever.
Greedo and Cy Snoodles.
There you go.
Not Cy Snoodle and Joe Wazza?
Yeah, I would think I would like to see more of the Rancor Keeper and the Rancor.
The Danny Trejo Rancor?
Both.
Or Maliki?
Both.
Makili?
Something like that.
I always liked the mild. I wouldn't say I liked it as a kid, but the just enough romance to make it part of the story, but not feel like I was watching a teen rom-com or something like that. And like I think the Attack of the Clones and the Phantom Menace, I know a lot of people, except for John, of course, but I know a lot of people complain about the acting in them. I still think the acting was exactly what we needed from Anakin. Like he might not, I always took it as just an awkward person that was raised by celibate monks that didn't know how to talk to women.
Exactly. It's misunderstood, man. So, because I think it was George Lucas's look at history. If you look at how things looked, I always pictured those movies, the prequels taking place almost. If you look at Europe pre-World War II, it was like the beacon of society, and then it just got knocked down backwards to nothing.
Yeah, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
the rise of totalitarianism and all that kind of stuff.
Just all resources were thrown into military might, and even like our country lucked out because we had a little bit of a boom and stuff. But a lot of the stuff we have canned goods and gelatin and all this stuff that we ate in the 50s. It wasn't because they were trying to make a better America. These companies had all this leftover stuff that they had they were already tooled to make this stuff. They're like, okay, how can we market this to people to just keep things going, and a lot of the other parts of the world were not as lucky, because they just were like, okay, well, North Africa, sorry, got all bombed up and we don't have colonialism anymore, so we're just going to leave you to your own devices, we took all your resources, good luck with that. And I think that's what they were trying to do with the it had that feel of things like that. But I don't know.
Do you think Zam Wessel and Django were a thing?
No, I never knew was Zam.
Or were they just co-workers?
I'm thinking they're more like I'm picturing like the guild if it goes anything like in Mando, most of those people were just hanging out to get a job, you know, and it was probably like before they had the little beeper chips, it was probably just who will do the best job for the least amount of money, you
know. Okay, do you guys know who the Cosmonaut Variety Hour is? He is he's a YouTube film critic. He breaks down the whole Zam Wessel Django Fett dynamic wonderfully.
Oh, okay. What's he called? What's he called again?
The Cosmonaut Variety Hour.
Okay.
After every episode, I have a list. I mean, this is the one from last time, so it's got like Blue Harvest, Steel Wars. Now I got the Cosmonaut Variety Hour.
I think it probably adds up to about hour and a half, 2 hours in total of, because he reviews all 9 or all 11 movies. And I mean, even if you just skim through it, watch his look, he is admittedly a contrarian.
Yeah.
So know that going into it. But even if you just watch his review of Attack of the Clones, it's funny too. He's actually pretty comical. But yeah, watch his review of the Star Wars saga.
I always thought I always liked the Zam Wessel character. We had a lot of people in Korea that tried to do the costume, and that's one of those costumes that winds up being way harder than it looks, just because of it's so much different fabric and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. That's why I try and stay away from too much cloth. It gets complicated.
I'm just waiting for you to get your
Kylo
Ren, and I'll get Vader, and we can do a grandson, grandpa. You know, get Matt Martin in the middle. You know, Matt Mickelson. He can be the Matt can be Han. You can stab him. Did Marty ever get back to you?
No, but I haven't been pestering him because my bonus check wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be.
I haven't talked to him. This week just because he's trying to get all his work done before Celebration. So
right, and that's the other reason I haven't pestered him either. So
he doesn't care. He's going a mile a minute. You gotta drop him a line every once in a while. Because I reminded him Monday or Tuesday, hey, send John pictures of Kylo Ren. And he said, "Oh, I will." And then him and I got on a tangent talking about something else.
Oh, so you distracted him? Nice
job. I distract everything. The person I distract more than everyone else is myself.
Yeah, honestly, like it's not even so much the pictures I'm worried about, because like I have the pictures from his Facebook of it. I'm more so that I'm concerned about the boot size and the price. Those are the two big things I'm concerned about.
His price, I'm pretty sure his price won't be bad. I don't know what he's asking, but he's not. Marty's are pretty good when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Right. Which I assume so.
Even his Wookiee heads, he sells them way cheaper than I thought he would. You know, so because I was like, what? Because some of those guys sell Wookiee heads for like $2,500. I was like, what? So I want to get my Vader done, but that's the other thing with back to podcasts. With Ken, with yours, I think the building part is another one of those things that people miss out on. Like the people that don't really know much about it, like you were saying, the level of love and detail that go into any costume, whether you use CRLs, whether you use stills from the movies or a combo, everyone I know that makes a costume, there is some level of just love they put into that costume.
Yeah, absolutely. Even so, my custom Mando that I have right now, even just the name.
Yeah.
So my character is Kenix Gar Kabur. Kenix is a play on my real name. Gar in Mandoa is Yor, and Kabur in Mandoa is protector. Oh. And my character is just a Mando with a long pole sword. I'm the bodyguard. So even the time and effort that went into thinking about what I want to be called in this costume.
Well, now every time I see you, I'm going to think of the Whitney Houston song, from The Bodyguard the movie.
Oh,
I'm gonna jump in your arms and you can carry me.
Yeah, you're my Whitney to me Kevin Costner.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, with every ounce of love, there is also at least a half an ounce of hate for those little things that just drove you nuts while you were making it. Like I'm redoing my Dinjar, and I got the first layer of the gloss black done.
It looked good.
And so actually the picture I sent you was after the first coat of the graphite powder. It's just I can't get a good picture of it to actually where you can see it.
Oh, okay.
But after I put the graphite powder on, I don't know if it didn't like the paint, if there was like protrusions that I didn't see, but like it looked like it was almost stippled. So I had to, and I didn't notice it at first, and then I had to go through and wet sand everything back down because I didn't want to dry sand it to get
right
and knock off everything. But the wet sanding with I think I used 600 grit. It knocked.
I speak about wet sanding, didn't I?
Yes, you did. So, and I'm very grateful because I got that entire chest plate done from a raw print to a finished product in a day.
Nice.
So, yeah, I was very grateful because that wet sanding, I mean, it fills in the gaps 3 times as fast.
Well, I just knew that from the old car days. But see, yeah, my costuming is I tend to love building stuff for my girls more than myself. So like I'll work on 000 all day long, and then when I go to work on my stuff, I'm like, yeah, I'll do it tomorrow. That's my because I want to do this Vader. I want to get this Vader on it, and I literally just need the cape, the underrobe, and the chest box, and I'm done. And I'm like dragging my feet on it.
Do you have the belt boxes already?
No, but those I'm going to print because I don't mind the chest box. I just haven't decided. I probably am going to print it, but I think I'm going to print it, smooth it out, cast it in silicone, smooth it out again, and then recast it to get it. So then I have a nice final, nice shiny, because even if you mold a chest plate, even if you don't do anything, if you mold a chest plate with print lines, it's way easier to get the print lines out of resin than it is the 3D print.
Mm-hmm. So, what are the dimensions on the chest box? Do you know?
I'm thinking off the top of my head, it's probably like 15 millimeters or centimeters, so 6x6 maybe, roughly. I gotta look up the actual stats on it because I know they're all different, but I think it's roughly 6x6.
You, depending on your resin printer, you might be able to squeeze that onto the build plate.
It won't fit. My resin printer's too small.
Gotcha.
I thought about that, or I thought about throwing a 0.1 nozzle on my CR10.
There you go.
But I just right now I was telling Ken before you got here, I normally have like a 10 to 15 boxes of filament backlog, on my shelf. I'm down to 1.
Oh jeez.
So I'm like right now it's just IG 11 IG 11 stuff.
Yeah, I'm
well, you want to
seriously
save those
cutting into
nickels and
mine.
pennies for celebration too. So
Well, yeah, that the plus side is I sold my 3rd ticket, so Sal needed a ticket for his wife, and I wasn't planning on selling it. I just figured I was going to have to eat the price because Safi wasn't going, and he bought it, so that gave me some spending cash for celebration that I wasn't expecting because everything else is paid for. I prepaid for my ticket, I prepaid for my flight, I prepaid for my hotel room, so it's all.
yeah, I'm surprised you guys didn't just camp out at Sal's house.
I am a terrible for asking. Sal would have probably let us do that in a second. I just don't like asking people. I don't. That's just not me. Like I hate to ask for help. That's my wife gets mad at me for that, but I don't ask for help when it comes to that kind of stuff.
But you're okay asking a stranger about getting into their inflatable Falcon?
Oh yeah, well,
it's the same. It's the same action, the same activity.
I know, but it's those boundaries. With friends, you know what I mean? It's those boundaries with friends that I try to respect. But yeah, we're staying with Marty, Zoe, and Dan are staying. So the room is really cheap. So, and we're staying right next to the convention center at the Clarion. So we're just
we stayed maybe 6 blocks away when we were there last.
I think we're on the same block. I think we literally just walk around the corner.
That's cool.
So, because I booked the room because it was when it was me, Zoe, and Safi, and then Safi couldn't go, and then Marty was like, "Hey, look, we have a room in the same building. If you guys don't mind." I was like, because it cut it cut it in half, So I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine with that." And the tickets I bought so long ago.
I was gonna ask, what is the total damage for 2 people to go to Celebration?
So tickets are $200 a pop. So that's reasonable for a con price.
Right, especially a 4-day convention.
And then the hotel for us with our share. Now, like I said, we're staying right next to it. I think it was like 500 and some change or something like that for Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, which is not bad at all. And then the airfare was killer.
Hold on, I paid $300 for 2 nights for Steel City Con.
Right, but that's where we're packing 4 guys in. We're packing 4 people into the room. So.
He's sleeping in the drawer. He's sleeping in one of the dresser drawers.
Yeah. So, well, and also they're only charging us for, like, Marty and them got the room from like Tuesday to Tuesday or something like that, and they're just charging us the nights we're there. So, because but it would have been $290 a night, I think, if it would have just stayed where it was, and then airfare was, I don't know, $1,600 or something like that.
Jesus.
I still liked Chicago. Like honestly, I just wish they would look at dates better when I don't know why they have to do it on holiday weekends, because just the airfare is more. If it was the week before, airfare would be cheaper. Like that I don't understand. But
well, we should. I mean, considering that Kathleen Kennedy is listening to our show, we should ask her to think about that. Consider that for next year.
Well, we had, who was the head of Reed Pop before? It was oh man,
Donna.
No, she used to work for Lucasfilm. My mind just went blank. Oh, hang on. What's her name now? Anyway, now she's the head of Crunchyroll. So, I think an anime streaming service, if I'm not mistaken. What was her name? I don't know, but she did the girl show. But that was my claim to fame in Orlando, because I had a text from her about Zoe's panel, and they wouldn't let us get to the inn. We had to get in early. And I pulled my phone up and said, "Look, I got a text from," I forget her name now. My mind just went blank. And they're like, there's like 3 people appeared and took us right to where we had to be. So it was the only time I felt like a VIP. But I also saw that Jordan, he's going to do some. He's going to be an MC somewhere on the stage somewhere. So.
Is Warwick going to be any MC this year?
I don't know. I hope so. He did such a good job.
I thought James Arnold Taylor did a good job too.
Yeah, I liked Mark Daniels.
The DJ.
Well, he was like, no, he was just the MC for, I think it was the MC for the Rebels panel, maybe.
Okay.
I don't know.
Maybe I'm thinking someone different.
And we ran into him. He does a lot of stuff at Disney. He's like an MC at Disney a lot.
He's the really tall guy, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he loved Safi and 000. So I was like, him, and there was another comedian from Whose Line Is It Anyway? And I didn't know he was someone famous. But when I took a picture of him with Safi in 000, now I posted up on Facebook. It tagged him, and I was like, oh wait a minute, I now I know who you know. So. I didn't mean to hurt his feelings or anything, but I don't know.
So, what do you think are going to be the surprise announcements at this year's celebration?
I wouldn't be surprised if they do some clips of some of the upcoming shows, because a lot of them have had a little bit of production. So I wouldn't be surprised if one of those panels they're like, "Hey, do you want to see a little bit of Ahsoka, or do you want to see a little bit of?" I think that's
Andor.
and I wouldn't be surprised if they start giving some dates, because we have no dates for anything coming out this year, other than Obi-Wan Kenobi. We don't have anything for Bad Batch. We don't have anything.
So Obi-Wan Kenobi comes out this
year. Yeah.
The only thing we've had a date for in the last 2 years, like that wasn't like a month before it came out, was the Book of Boba Fett.
Right.
Because if you think back, like The Mandalorian season 1, we knew that was coming out when Disney Plus, when Disney Plus debuted, and then we had no idea when the Clone Wars season 7 was until about 3 months beforehand.
Yeah.
Same with The Mandalorian, and then they said the Book of Boba Fett would be December of 21. We didn't know about Obi-Wan until January.
Right.
And we don't know when Andor comes out. We don't know when Bad Batch comes out. We don't know when Mando season 3 is or Ahsoka.
Yeah, so that's where I'm hoping that they give us a calendar of some sort. Or what would be like super is, imagine if they tell us about a show they've been working on that no one knows anything about. Like, hey, guess what? This, you know what I mean? Like, that would be neat.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just
like a trailer for Taika's movie.
Yeah, no, I mean, or something like that, or because I think they announced a lot of stuff, and then some stuff just disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know if it was because they just aren't going to do it now, or they need to give us a Baby Yoda surprise again.
Mm-hmm.
Like Luke coming in at the end of the season, that was a kind of a surprise, but it was, like if you would have watched the tea leaves, you could have figured out it was going to be something like it wasn't, crazy surprise.
Oh, what about Ezra? Do you think they would do something like that?
Could be an Ezra thing.
Or Thrawn.
Yeah, I'm just curious what we're going to see. Like, at least one panel is going to see something, either the first 2 episodes of Bad Batch, or they're going to do that for some, or two. Maybe we'll see 2 episodes of well, we can't even do Kenobi because they already announced that to be 2 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
So,
do you think George will be there?
I hope so.
It's the 20th anniversary of Clone Wars, or Attack of the Clones, rather.
I would have thought that would have been Phantom Menace too. When we were in Chicago, we were in Chicago where he lives.
He lives in Chicago. I thought he lived in California.
No, I think he lives in California, but I think doesn't his wife have a place in Chicago as well, or something like that?
Yeah, I can't remember.
Well, he's a billionaire, so I'm sure he has houses everywhere.
Right. But
and lots of white shoes.
Yeah. So yeah.
White sneakers and
jeans and flannels.
Flannels, yeah. So I don't know what to. I'm kind of. Zoe and I are just kind of going in blind. Like, we're going to prepare for her podcast. The one girl from Death Watch Girls is going to fill in for Lizzie on the panel, because Lizzie's still in New York, so she doesn't. She's in culinary school. So she doesn't get days off. Like, they just go like, boom, 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 all the way through. So she can't make it, which is good. I'm glad the girls are taking school seriously.
Think you get to hang out with Dave Filoni?
Oh yeah. Maybe I see his wife. I know his wife a little bit because she did the show. She did Zoe's show. She's a very nice lady.
Make sure you say hi to Jim Swearingen for us.
Yeah, I'll say hi to all those guys. You have to just give me a long list. I've already had some people like, "Hey, can you pick me up this?" I'm like, "You've never been to Celebration if you want me to pick something up at the store."
Because, speaking of which, did you guys see the merch that they announced today?
No,
I did not. What is it?
It's a lot of 20th anniversary of Attack of the Clones. The logo that they're using for the 20th anniversary looks phenomenal, and I really, really wish I was going simply for it's just a black mug with white text with that logo,
well,
and it just
text me that, and if I get into the store, I'll remember it. See, here's the thing that's different, John. The thing with the store is, depending on, like certain stores, you actually have to sign up for your spot to get in the store.
You have to get in a virtual queue to get into an actual queue to get something.
Yeah. Like Zoe wanted the porg, that you could put on your shoulder, and a couple other things at the last celebration, and the little, I don't know, the little swamp looking creature. That took 2 hours of the day because they were in the queue, and then they got in line, and then they had to wait in line for about an hour to get in the store.
Yikes!
And I had one for the pop counter last time, and by the time I got to mine, they had one pop left. Like one pop, like not like one type. They literally had one pop left.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I don't know where. I'm trying to see if I can see the merch, if they have the. I got all the pins. Like I got a bunch of the pins. Like I like the old pins, but I think they changed the pins now. I think they changed the type of pins we have. Oh, here we go.
Oh God!
Yeah,
Bless you.
that.
Thank you. Sorry, I
the
clicked the wrong screen.
I'm looking at that shirt. I do like the t-shirt. Oh, that's a Django hoodie. God, what is that for that thing? That'll be like $100.
These are cool. I like the ones I just sent you.
Oh,
The
yeah.
Max Rebo Tiki.
Yeah. So I ran into that the rep for the Tikis at Chicago at the bar. We were waiting for our car to take us, or we were waiting to get check out or something, and he was showing me a bunch of these little Tikis. But I love those Tikis, but man, if you wanted to collect those Tikis, you'd need a lot of money now because some of those are like crazy price.
Right.
Like didn't they have a Rancor? There's the
Yeah, they probably have 24 of them now. If I had to guess a number,
Yeah.
they have bunches and bunches of them. They have a Jawa, Ewok. I definitely think they had a Rancor.
Yeah, there was a Rancor set. It was like a big one. There was like, I don't know. There was like multiple sets or something like that. There's some neat stuff, but they're kind of like those things. If you don't get them at first, then they go up really quick.
Like the Lando shirt, the Lando.
Oh
print.
yeah.
I never got one of those, and it made me sad.
Well, you know what? I got the Lando fabric, so I got the fabric for that and made Zoe a long sleeve shirt with the big puffy sleeves, hide cards in.
Huh.
So I sewed her a shirt for that when she had her Beskar night. When she had, hang on, let me see if I have I don't think I have the shirt down here.
I didn't realize Mike was a sewer.
I didn't either, truthfully.
Does that make him a seamstress or a seamster?
I don't know. Why didn't you ask him?
So are you a seamstress or a seamster? What's it called with them?
I'm someone that can't sew very well. So it looks like a shirt, but it's, I wouldn't wear it in public. Let me see, but I don't know if you can see in that. Hang on. Oh yeah, see the bag?
Oh, that's funny.
And then this was when they watched Solo, Marty went down as Chewie, and they played Sabak.
Oh, nice. That's a lot of goodies.
It's all filled with.
Oh, I thought you were going to show us the shirt you made.
Oh no, I can't find it. Yeah. If I could get Zoe to answer.
That was some false advertising. That was bait and switch if I ever heard of it.
Yeah.
Let me see.
I sewed a shirt. Look at these coins.
I will get her down here with a shirt. Hang on. Show you.
Now, Mike, did you print all of those just
Yes.
in the color, or did you paint any of them?
Because I knew in the bag the paint would scratch off.
Yeah.
We have poker chips.
Are those Resistance?
Star Wars Geek Girl.
Ah.
Resistance logo. Star Wars Geek Girl.
Are
Rebels.
those stickers on there? How did you make
No,
those?
I actually got them custom printed.
Oh, wow.
I got them. So when we go to Steel City, we play Sabak. We play the real version of Sabak, and then we have money, and we have chips.
Holy cow.
So
Heather says hi, guys.
hi, Heather.
Hello.
They say hi back.
I'm texting Zoe.
Mike says he's gonna say hi to Ray Park for us.
Yeah, there we go. I don't know. I don't think Ray Park's going to have a big presence.
Mike's gonna say hi to Ray Park for us. He's going to celebration.
As much as John was right that Ray Park is a wonderful person on his show, I think the trouble Ray Park got in the last couple of months, I don't think he's going to be doing anything.
Chicago.
Yeah. Ray Park got himself in a little too much trouble, I think.
Yeah, and that kind of trouble, I don't know if you can come back for for Disney's sake.
Yeah, but he was a nice guy when I met him.
Oh, he's great.
He's just
the boys were on stage with him at Disney World one year.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
He did a special a panel during one of the Disney World Star Wars weekends.
Oh yeah, I love.
And so we walked in the parade with the boys. They dressed in Jedi robes with a whole bunch of other kids, and they got invited up on stage with Ray Park to do some martial art moves.
Yeah, he was always good. We had a good Darth Maul in our group, and he's not in anymore. But he did a really good Darth Maul, and he was like a martial artist. We don't have many Darth Mauls anymore because no one's willing to shave their head, so they'll do like a rubber cap, and then they always put the hood up because it doesn't look 100%. You know.
I would shave my head. I just don't want to do all that paint.
Yeah, well, that's what he would. It would be hours. It would be hours, and then we'd go out to eat after, and we're all out of costume, and he's still in Darth Maul. I'm sitting here with Darth Maul.
Yeah, you don't get out of that fast. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, and you don't. A lot of that stuff you don't want to mess with. Oh, here John just couldn't do merchandise.
Ken, you're gonna see this, and you're gonna be very upset that we're not going. They have some quality merchandise.
Oh man, I like those shirts. You know what? That's the badges. I wondered what the badges, because I wasn't really happy with the badges, the artwork badges. But now that I see them as shirts, I like that. Well, I'll probably be buying that droid shirt.
Just wait till
they have.
I
don't like sand flip flops.
Hold on, it gets better. Oh, it gets so much better.
What the hell?
There's one in particular that, Ken, you're going to be really upset about. Just get to the Attack of the Clones stuff.
I'm still looking at the...
Which one are you talking about?
Are you to the Attack of the Clones 20th anniversary collection?
The Obi-Wan Confusion shirt?
Right above that one.
Oh, I love that Jawa shirt.
I don't know what the desktop site looks like. I'm on mobile.
Alon Sleaze-Bagano?
The wanted poster.
That's one of the costumes I've always wanted to make.
Oh yeah, they changed all the pins. Wow, man, that C-3PO pin. I'm looking at the pins now.
Oh my goodness, these are fantastic.
What's that?
Oh my god, the Dexter's Diner, the Dex's Diner travel mug is fantastic.
There's an Aunt Veru mug too.
A Frog Lady plush? Oh my word.
There is an I don't like sand anti-sand towel.
What the? Who thinks of this stuff? We should have talked about this stuff during our ridiculous episode.
Yeah. I do like the Dexter's neon sign though.
They're doing so many memes.
Hey, you know what? It's funny.
Oh, the Splash shirts are cool.
Well, see, they need to invent a shirt where I can play videos on the front of it.
I just did a lesson on my. I just did a lesson with that with my students. There's a company that was working on that. That was one of Steve Jobs. Before he passed away, he had a lot of development on cloth that could, like you can make an iPod out of a cloth and you just roll it out and you'd have an iPad. And so I teach with my 8th graders hate it. The kids that you teach always hate it, but the little circuit boards, they're little Adafruit circuit boards. They have They have motion sensors, temperature sensors, sound sensors, speakers, LED hookups, and all that. And you can build them into clothing. And the point is, the one video I showed, they talk about where you could make a shirt with this where, like when the temperature gets a certain, your shirt, it might turn on lights. Or you have a light sensor. If it gets too dark, it might turn on, like a running shirt, it turns on LEDs sewn into the cloth and stuff like that. But then there's this company that wants to make a smart shirt that's connected to your phone. And it has a processor built in that picks up, Bluetooth from your phone. And then they're working on cloth that you can basically put a message on your shirt via your phone.
Oh my goodness!
But I don't know how.
I was just making that up. I didn't think it was actually real.
Yeah, but it's one of those, because they did, like when they did, was it Pokemon Go? So Tommy Hilfiger did the same thing with their clothing, where you would buy their clothing and then you would have an app like Pokemon Go, and they would hide things all over places, and you would go collect them and get points that would cash into buying some of their clothes.
Oh.
So there's all this clothing is going in the way of, in one way, shape, or form, but who knows? They still have not got the cloth to work how they want it. But I do like I like these. I like the Jawa. I like the Jawa Off-World Jawa shirt. The Raiders.
The Camtono cooler bag.
Yeah, look at that. Yeah, that's
See, I need to make more TikToks money.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, I can't. My problem is I need to make more money to have a bigger house if I want all this stuff. And shirts, I can't. Like, I like the Beskar button-down shirt. That's pretty cool. Like, I like the subtle shirts. And they have the that cooler would be really cool. But
I see what you did there.
Floating rock.
That's so funny, though.
Huh?
That's so funny.
What, the rock one?
Yes, because people are gonna buy that, and then in 5 years it's gonna be $300 on eBay for a box of rocks.
Yeah.
And there are gonna be people that are dumber than said box.
Or said rocks.
Or said rocks. Oh, the alphabet blanket is cool.
Yeah, I just again, everything I have to think of is, how am I getting this home?
Yeah. I will say this though, I don't care when, where, or how I have to do it. I will 100% be at wherever celebration is in 2025.
Yeah, I'm telling you, once you go, like.
Well, Heather was just saying when she came down to deliver, she's heartbroken that we're not going.
Yeah, once you go, it's hard not to go. Like, I mean, because there was a up until like October, I didn't think I was going to go because I couldn't get off. So I was going to have to leave Friday night on a flight and get there late Friday and only be there Saturday and Sunday.
Right.
And I was just going to send the girls.
Bless you.
Bless you.
But it's worth it. It's just like the tickets. Like I almost wish. Sometimes I wish they would do it more often, so more people could do it. But I know if they do it more often, I'm just going to go every time. So.
Or only so many vacation days in the year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm 100% going to be there for the 20th anniversary of Revenge of the Sith. I can't feasibly miss that.
You should just melt down.
You should camp out now.
Beskar out of that. Make an Iron Man suit out of all your boxes.
Yeah, I could do that.
Now, that didn't come out on VHS, did it?
Mm-mm.
It because Phantom Menace came out on VHS.
Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones did, and then Revenge of the Sith was right after the death of VHS.
Because I had Phantom Menace on VHS.
I have a special set with the Phantom Menace. You got the videotape, a little booklet of some of the art, and I think you even got a film cell.
Yeah, I got the same thing.
I bought that at Goodwill for $1.
Yeah, I got that, but I don't have the tape anymore.
Over the weekend when we were in New York City, we found the special editions on VHS in New York City.
Nice.
I didn't buy it.
Yeah, I don't have any way to play it. My VCR, I wouldn't even trust a tape in it, because it was like a $25 VCR that, I was an early adopter of Blu-ray or a DVD, so I think my first DVD player was like $600 or something like that, because I just got tired. I got tired of VHS.
Well, you didn't like rewinding them?
I just got tired of owning something that I knew every time I watched it, it could be its last. Remember the old ones where you had to track them? You had to turn your little tracking lever and stuff. Yeah. So, I had Beta that I think I rented a Betamax or something when I was a kid.
Yeah, Blockbuster used to rent video machines, didn't they?
They were like rubberized on the outside. You just plug them in.
Yep.
The girls were at the tail end of Blockbuster. When they were real little, they remember going to Blockbuster. And then Redbox hit.
Oh God, I will always remember Friday nights going to Blockbuster, renting a movie and a video game every week like clockwork. Because we had one that was literally 2 minutes from our house. It was so nice.
We just had mom and pops. We didn't get a Blockbuster until probably 2000 was when the first Blockbuster came around, because all the video stores were going away, and then all of a sudden Blockbuster popped up.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, we had a good podcast episode, and we had, I don't know how many people, but we had a constant 4 people on.
Yeah. And I truly appreciate all the questions that they asked us.
Yeah. Blake kept us pretty busy.
We
never asked them those questions. They never answered those questions for us.
Right.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
We need to start turning this into we need to start uploading this as a podcast.
Yeah, well, that's what Ken and I were saying. We have like 100 episodes now. If we just cut them into half-hour episodes.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you could easily get 3, 4, 5 episodes out of each time that we sit down.
I don't know how many episodes it lets me save.
Oh, see you later, Anthony.
See you.
Glad you hung out with us for a bit.
Later.
Can't wait till you're back in Lancaster County, Anthony.
I think I don't know if it's 10 or if it's a gigabyte amount.
Yeah, I'll have to look. I can't look now, or I'll shut our stream down. Yeah, well, what? Again, we all have to make bumpers for our podcast and share them. So
Ken, I like your idea of scripting them in a way that you can make them almost like ad reads.
Yeah.
So.
No, I just think we should have a Google Drive where we just throw them in, and just we can have folders. Look, these are these are in between, and just throw them in there, and swap them out every once in a while. But I think that's how you just get to spread the word, and it gets people out of your circle. Because I am sure, like Zoe has, I don't know on all the other platforms, but she has 125 people that just subscribe to her newsletter / blog. So I would assume most of them at least listen to her podcast regularly if you sign up for their, So, I have a new one of her shows I got to put up. I was going to put up tonight, but it's too late.
I was sitting in line waiting for tattoos, and I'm like, I was just trying to think of something to do to kill the time. I'm like, I'll see if Zoe's got a new episode out, and I'm like, it's been over a month.
I know. Well, so Lizzie's tough. Lizzie is it's her schedule's the toughest, because Zoe does a lot, but she has a calendar and it's set up. So Zoe is well planned. Boom, boom, boom. Lizzie is not quite the same. So most of the time they don't get another episode. And Zoe doesn't want to be not loyal to Lizzie, so a lot of times they'll go a stretch without a podcast, which irritates me as their producer because that drops your numbers down. You got to keep them in that 7-day window.
Right.
That's why I think most podcasts, personally, if I had to do my own again, I would do 2 a week. I would cut my podcast in half and do a Tuesday and a Friday or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Not only builds your numbers up, but it makes you it just keeps new stuff on the feed. It keeps your stuff getting pushed up to the top of people's podcatcher.
So with that in mind, like, do you think that having one episode divided in half is better than 2 separate episodes?
It's like, and I think you're the one that said this, Ken. I think it was you that said the perfect length of a podcast is as long as it needs to be. You know, I think, which I think is true, because people listen to them. Like, I listen to mine in a car and whatever. I pause it when I get out. And, but I think just from a standpoint of people like podcasts, I think at least when someone listens to a podcast, if they really like it, they want more episodes. And so the more you have, it's similar to like when soda companies make their bottles just slightly taller because they make it skinnier. You're not getting more soda, but you think your mind thinks you are. Mm-hmm. And I think with podcast, it feels like you're just getting more content. It's split up. Plus, it also, at least for me, when I get these really long podcasts, like I'll get a really long one, then my other podcasts back up, you know, because I hit what's new and now you start listening, you know, and sometimes you have a particular order. Well, if one's really long and it takes like 3 drives to work to listen to it, I got 6 more podcasts that I, you know, where if
Gotcha.
you keep it short, you can kind of like, it's just like a tasting menu. You can just keep it. But I think it works different for everybody. I mean, good content is good content.
Mm-hmm.
I just like the familiarity of people because it's like those friends you have that you don't really know, but you've been listening to them for years. You know?
Well, that's how I felt about, you know, John's last episode.
Yeah.
You know, I was listening to it and I legit out loud would respond to some of the things that you guys were talking about.
Yeah. Well, and your episode when you guys were talking, you know, your controversial episode, I liked that episode because I felt like it was a model for how to disagree and still, you know, keep it good. So
you mean we can be friends and not have the same opinion? Who?
Right. Yeah.
Unheard of. Who'd have thunk it?
I'm lucky that I've, you know, fallen into that group of guys that enjoy it and are willing to share openly, you know, their thoughts on it without necessarily being destructive of somebody else's thoughts.
Well, and I also think your episode also, I don't feel like I know any of those guys for what they dislike. Like, I understand that they didn't like certain things in that episode, but because of other things I've heard from them and because of the way they dealt with it in that one, I'm not like, oh, that's so-and-so who dislikes this. Where there are whole podcasts, I'm like, well, yeah, I know they don't like this, or I know they don't like that. And I tend not to listen to those.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was talking about earlier with the being a podcast snob. You know, you listen to some, like, yeah, I'm never coming back to this one again.
Yeah. Well, you know, and it's like I'm a big fan of iHeartRadio podcasts. I don't know how many of those you listen to, but it's the ones that do stuff you missed in history, but they do a lot of really good research-based, somewhat scripted shows. So if I want that, I know that pretty much anything. Like they did one on Nazi hunters, right? These Jewish special agents who were executing Nazis like in the 60s and stuff like that. And it was such a really, like, it was one of those ones where I rarely skip my Star Wars podcast. When that one was on, I was skipping everything to listen to it. Just so well done. And it's just so well done, like both from a research point, but from how they scripted it and how they, you know, produced it, and they had music and soundtrack and stuff. It was really good.
And see, those are the kind of ones where I want to talk to the folks who make them to learn how they do that. because there are some shows that are very well produced. I mean, the Full of Sith is one of them, or Blast Points is another one where they've got, some sound clips here, and they've got their conversation and more like a quote or something. I think they're just fantastic.
Well, our last Readacast where we did the one episode of the Shakespeare, Colin went through and produced it all. He went and put all the sound effects in after the fact.
Okay.
So I think that's more of that's a skill set that, and it's a time thing. Like, it depends on your podcast. Like, if you're doing a topical podcast, you don't have time to overproduce because you have to get it out. Like, if you're talking about the episode of The Mandalorian that just came out, you can't produce for 3 days and then put it out,
Yeah, that's why with some of these YouTubers, I'm so amazed by, like, whether it's Ryan Airy from Screen Crush or the guy from the new Rockstars or whatever. They're able to get that stuff out so fast, and then you look at their numbers, like 576,000 views.
Well, that's
in the first hit out
because they're not having to go to a job. Some of them are starting to monetize with some of that, because that's what affects all of us, is we all have to go to work, and then we all have to deal with and it's just like in the summer I hope to be doing more of this when I'm off, but I put everything that I don't get to do over the school year off. So June is usually like my busiest month of the year, catching up on everything I should have done all year.
Well, Vader better be at the top of that list.
Vader is on the top of that.
We got Tuscans. What about the Tuscans?
Well, the Tuscans are the week after I get back from Celebration. Like, Zoe and I are probably going to be talking Tuscans on the plane. Like, I'm taking a notebook and we're going to try to plan out these whole Tuscan costumes and like that.
Just a week after Celebration, you said?
No, that's when I'm going to start getting it all planned.
Oh, okay.
It's not till the end of June, I believe, is the weekend we have planned. But yeah, I have to get on that. But I just need to get through Celebration, and my last day with students is June 10th. So I need that coming up quick. But there's a lot of good podcasts out there, but it's just such a variety. Like, I almost think like I got to start putting a list together. I always hate to put lists of podcasts I like out because I always miss one. I always forget one. They haven't put something out lately or something.
Well, now our podcast can have can be dual. One of them can be podcasts of people we know.
Yeah.
And then podcasts done by people that we enjoy. Not saying that they're not,
right.
That the people we know we don't like, but.
And I would start with your guest. I would start reaching out to other podcasts. Like, I think that's what makes a podcast grow quick, because that all podcasters in general are just nice people. Most of them, they just want to help if they understand what podcasts are all about. If they understand the whole community based on what podcasts started. I mean, eventually some of them get so big that they're just their own little thing. But I don't know if that's what podcasts were really meant to do. Because I think at least the podcasts I like the most are always the people I seem like that if I could get a hold of them, they would at least take my call.
Mm-hmm. Be kind enough to give you some suggestions.
Yeah.
You also need to get in the TikTok sphere. Like, if you really want to do the Under the Armor or yeah, I mean, there are a lot of good, like, armored costumers on TikTok.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the guy who was at Keystone or Philly the other day, Philly fan, whatever we were at.
The Fan Expo?
The guy who looked like
Pedro?
Yeah, they look like Pedro. He's a big TikToker.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's who I knew him from. And I mean,
that was not the Mandalorian. Something I can't remember what his handle was.
Yeah, but I'm saying he's a big TikToker, and TikTok is also what's nice with the TikTok thing is it's a good springboard for whatever other medium you're putting on.
Mm-hmm.
And now that they have 10-minute videos, which I don't know why you would need to make a 10-minute video, but
you can't make a 10-minute video in the TikTok app. You have to upload that.
Right.
So asinine. Who asks for that?
But what's nice about that is you could take a nice, good clip of your podcast and not have to worry that since it's 3 minutes and 2 seconds, it won't load up.
You're right.
Know? So
now with Zoe's webpage that she has, how much stuff did she have to put up when it first started?
Well, I built it first, and it was garbage because I'm not a 14-year-old girl. It was built for someone my age, and so then she just started writing. Because when COVID hit, she just started writing, and she just started churning it. She hooked it. She set it up. I just told her one day. I said, "Look, the website really sucks. You should really look at it." And she just rebuilt the whole thing. And she's just a prolific writer. Like Zoe is an awesome writer.
And does she archive everything?
The blog auto archives everything through Blogger. So I bought.
And that's just through like a Google domain that she has that
built
built on.
Google domain, and then it links over to I forget who she uses. I'll have to ask her, but I think it cost $12 for the domain, and I think the other service we use is like $99 for the year. And you could get cheaper ones, but the cheaper ones the URLs were a pain and they didn't look as nice. I was like, you know what? Let's just, if we're going to do it, we'll just do it right and, make it enjoyable. But you have to, she does it. Like, I think now she hasn't done it. She usually does two writings a week. But, and she gets good traffic on it. I mean, it's one of those things. It's the same with podcasts. You build that backstory, and then it's like anything. The right time, something will hit, and when you have all that content, they act like you came out of nowhere, and nope, you've been doing this for 7 years. Because it'll be 7 years in September that Zoe started her whole thing.
Wow.
So.
Yeah, I always feel bad because I get the emails for like when she posts a new blog, but I'm always at work when I check my email, and her website is blocked on our network. So it's
that's how it is at school. It's blocked. It's blocked on that too, at school. So she does a good, and it was once it became hers, it became better. I wish I would have started her earlier. Like, I tried to get her to start a podcast when she was like 4, because she would just start. But there was no real easy way to host a podcast for the average person in 2005. You had to go through all these hoops and stuff. So.
Yeah, we live in crazy times.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But yeah, Ken. I mean, I'm happy. I'm happy that podcasts and Armor has brought us all together, and movies. And Steel City.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's about it. But
toys.
3D printing.
Yeah, of course.
3D printing is one of those things. It's another one of those love-hate. Because once you get into 3D printing, like normally you'd think, oh, I should just buy that piece for $75. Now you're like, oh, I can print it, and then I forgot to give Anthony your shoulder bells too, Ken. We were just I'm sorry. We failed in all walks of Anthony's visit. I forgot.
2 jobs. You had 2 jobs.
And we forgot both of them because as soon as I said 3D printing, I was like, oh crap, they're sitting right out in the middle of my garage that Anthony and I were standing talking right next to them. So
I don't know if I should blame you or blame Anthony.
I'd blame me. I was just excited to have someone come over and see my Star Wars stuff.
And
at this point, you might as well just hang on to them until I come up for the Tuscan build.
Yeah, right. I could print you the other set too. Then,
okay.
But the 3D printing is like it's a joy and a curse. Because some days I'm thinking, man, I just would rather just buy a helmet, but no, I'm going to print it, and the first one's going to fail, or I'm going to run out of filament. Like I'm like IG-11 is worrying me about running out of filament, and I have like 20 spools ordered, but they're like back ordered. I'm like, come on.
Yeah, and speaking of the Tuscan build, that's starting to look a little bit hairy for me.
We'll build you one on the side for you, man. Not to worry, dude.
Just tell us how tall you are.
Well, see, what had happened is we've got a calendar for all the salespeople. It's like, hey, this is when we're taking vacation time. This is when we're going to be off. I told my boss, like, hey, I need June 25th. I'm taking my last vacation day for the year because we get 5 days, and instead I don't do anything for 5 days in a row, so I just been using them one at a time. And I told him, like, hey, June 25th, I need off. I will not be here. I will be out of state. And then we had 2 new guys start where without checking or asking anyone, there's like, oh yeah, you've already got this vacation planned. Like, don't worry about it. So now it's like, hey, I put in for this a month and a half ago. Like, I had this in the calendar. We need to figure this out because I won't be there. I will not show up.
Well, I don't want you losing your job over a Tuscan car.
Well, I don't know. It wouldn't be the worst way to go.
I don't know.
I could. Yeah. I mean, it's probably up there.
Corvette.
Yeah, I do. I gotta pay for the. By the way, I put an Instagram poll up, and almost nobody liked the Tantive 4, and I was a little disappointed.
That's a deep cut. That's probably the better one of it, but you are, I don't know.
Yeah, let's see.
It's those millennials. They just don't understand.
I had 9 people say keep Skywalker, 6 people say Mando, and 1 person said Tantive 4.
And that one person wasn't me because I didn't even know you put the poll up.
I'd go with Mando. Because Mando, someone's going to get that plate, and you're going to be like, damn it, I could have had that plate.
Right, because what I'm thinking is, like, I've had Ecto 2 for almost 8 years now.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about retiring that and either switching Skywalker to the red Camaro and putting something new on the Corvette, or keeping Skywalker on the Corvette and putting something new on the red Camaro. I sound so privileged. With that one
Look at
tangent.
you, humble bragger. Look at you.
I was always
taking lessons from Mike.
I was always against vanity plates until Zoe wanted one. So,
She's got Spectre 5, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
Because I was always like, what do these people just have extra money to throw around, putting special numbers? And then Zoe's like, I was like, oh, okay, I'll do that for you. So my stance on that didn't last very long.
Yeah, we never had vanity plates up until I got my first car, my red Camaro, and now everything we get, like, yeah, right, yeah, we'll shell out the extra $100 for vanity plates.
They got Mando money up there.
I guess.
I'm driving an 06 Scion with 252,000 miles on it.
Hey, I'm driving an 06 now too.
Yeah.
I downgraded 11 years.
Yeah, well, I'm waiting for my electric VW bus. That's what I'm waiting for. It just has to stay alive till that happens.
Yeah, my Corvette's got to last me until the C8s aren't $100,000.
There you go. All right, gents. It is 11:10. We're just under 3 hours. I think that's a short episode for us.
Yeah, we can only squeeze 2 episodes out of this one.
I have to. Yeah, well, I'll work on trying to pull the audio. Maybe this. I don't know if I'll get it done before celebration or not, because I do have to spend time with my wife since she's not going to see.
Why don't we let's think about that for future ones.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily have to do it with this.
But I will. No, but I could at least get the audio, and you guys could, like, even if you just want to throw it up on your feed, just like if you're having a slow week, just say, look, you could just put a bumper at the beginning. Hey, I'm Ken, part of my podcast, and this is just some of the stuff I do, just to keep your feed up and alive.
Mm-hmm.
Throw it on there. Or what we should do is we should put a 3-parter, put 1 part on each person's feed. So then,
with a bumper, if you want the rest of this, go to like a scavenger hunt.
Yeah, there you go. Not a bad idea.
Yeah, that means you have to put one on CreatorCast then, because that'd be 3.
I'll put it on Zoe's.
Oh,
there you go.
Okay.
See, she's not even on the show at all.
No, but I always feel bad for Colin because I always over promote Zoe over. I got to get him back in the fold here.
Yeah. Mike. Even if you can't pull the audio from Restream, you can always just do a YouTube to MP3 Because these are all still on your YouTube feed.
I pulled the audio from this when Zoe interviewed Darth Chaco from Instagram or from TikTok, and because he has like 6,000 followers on YouTube. You know, so I just YouTube. YouTube is one of those blind spots that I never got into because it came out big when I was doing other stuff, and then when I tried to get into it, I just tried to overproduce things, and I just was like, I'll go to a regular podcast. But
I think I look better on a podcast.
Well,
you got the face for radio.
I'm the same. I have the only thing is I can't use any filters because my hair is dark on top and gray on the sides. It turns all my hair white. So when I turn on any of those filters, my hair just turns instantly white, and it looks bizarre. So, see what you have to look forward to, John, when you get old.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
See, we need I wish I had Mando armor, because then our show could be 2 Mandos and a baby, and we could have
Well, we have 2 Mandos on this show. You're the baby.
But
That's right.
I have clothing older than John.
Look, we're all
Mandos
children.
and a TK.
Huh?
2 Mandos and a TK.
Yeah, there we go.
Or 2 Mandos and a Sandy.
That's true. That's good.
We're all man children here. Let's not kid ourselves.
That's true. But
yeah, I mean, I just spent several hours looking at somebody else's Star Wars toys. Come on.
Nice. Yeah.
And we paid to do it.
Yeah.
One of the funniest things about that trip up there, and I hope that the creators of that exhibit aren't listening to this particular portion. They had a gift shop, and in the gift shop they had 2 Black Series figures for sale. One of them was the 6-inch Lando Calrissian, and the other one is a 6-inch Black Series Jar Jar Binks.
I thought you were going to say Constable Zuvio.
Oh yeah, that would have been the real kicker. But the Lando, I think they were selling for $50, and the Jar Jar was $70.
You're talking about like the General Lando, right?
Yeah, the one
that is currently warming pegs across America.
That's the very same one.
That's the joy of action figures right now. The state of action figures in the United States.
I'm pretty sure
Constable Zuvio will be the yak face of 20 years from now, because all these Constable Zuvios got sent down to like the box lot stores, like the Ollie's and all that kind of stuff, and then they eventually just get sold to kids real cheap. Kid rips it open, and that's going to be what people are looking for is Constable Zuvio.
I've got his.
See, that's somebody who has to show up in one of these new live action shows.
Yeah.
Constable Zuvio has to be there somewhere soon.
Yeah, I think the extent of live action we've seen him is the behind the scenes for The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
We got more Baba Joe than we got of Constable Zuvio.
Who's Baba Joe?
Baba Joe's that creature that carried around the cage that had the other animals in it.
Yes.
They actually had a whole story about Baba Joe in one of the books that came out around The Force Awakens.
Yes.
Some good books that came out. Some of those background books were actually pretty good. I will give Disney like that. They have rekindled my like of the book, so they have done a good job with that. So.
I think they've done an amazing job of making sure that they are connected. I mean, as much as I love the stories from the they're calling them legends now, but the things I love about the current stuff is there are deliberate, explicit connections to it all,
right?
Instead of these way off the mark wild stuff.
Well,
not that I don't love the way off the mark wild stuff, but
right, but it also you feel like it feels like they're caring for the property, and I like that they turned it into legends. Like they didn't just because they were all legends anyway. None of them were canon before. Like so. Yeah.
Mike, it's funny you say that though. I had when we were talking about our favorite Star Wars moment. I had a very interesting thought. So you say that Disney has rekindled your love for the books.
Uh-huh.
You know, everyone always dogs on Disney. Oh, they ruined Star Wars. Blah blah blah. This, that, and another. However, it's very interesting for me to think about that. Like the Mandalorian, it took Star Wars from just being something I loved to something I was obsessing over like a child again.
Yep.
So.
Well, and the Mandalorian accomplished what they accomplished in '77 in the sense that large groups of people that normally wouldn't watch it watched it. Like the impact in '77 was everyone was watching it and everyone was talking about it. You know, and I don't think any of the other movies hit as big as '77 across a lot. Like the Empire was big amongst the fans and all that was the fans. But when it first came out, man, Saturday Night Live was doing skits and like they were on variety shows. They were, you know, it was everywhere. And
well, I think the Force Awakens was, or not Force Awakens, sorry, Phantom Menace.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, they were on MTV and
Yeah.
And
Like,
things like that.
I'm saying like the 70s. I just remember '77. It was like people you would never think would like Star Wars, and maybe it's because it was the first time that the way they merchandised it was just everywhere. And then when the Mandalorian hit, there was people that knew I loved Star Wars and never watched Star Wars before, and all of a sudden were coming and talking to me about the Mandalorian at work, you know. And my wife, she's not a big fan, but she looked forward to watching the Mandalorian every week, you know, because of the way the Mandalorian went. So, yeah, the Mandalorian. I think the Mandalorian did really well, and I'm glad they did with the Mandalorian what they did with him, and didn't do that with Boba Fett.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I use the Mandalorian as a talking point at work. Like if I'm just sitting there building rapport with customers, like
Yeah.
and because like I've got the picture of us on my desk, and they'd be like, "Oh, that's cool. I mean, is that you? Do you like Star Wars?" And I'm like, "Oh, little do you know." And then they'll drop
how much time do you have, sir?
Like they'll drop a nugget about like Baby Yoda or the Mandalorian. I'm like, all right, well, here's what I did back in November and March.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So,
Yeah. That's I can't wait till we shoot again.
I know. I'm counting down the days, even though we don't have a date.
I know. Well, I got to get on Matt. I don't know if he's going to Celebration, but we'll get a date once I hound Matt for about a week, because he doesn't understand the importance of dates when it comes to that kind of stuff.
I would love to do an entire episode on the connections between Star Wars and Disney, because there have been connections between Star Wars and Disney since '77.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
so,
and wasn't it Lucas? Wasn't George Lucas at the opening of one of the Disneys on opening?
He was opening the second day the Disneyland opened.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so just to give a preview of that episode that we do that's all about Disney.
Yeah.
That crate dragon skeleton that you see in the desert of Tunisia, that's actually a skeleton from a dinosaur of a Disney movie.
Yeah.
That they took out there and put in the desert. So from the very, very beginning, Disney has been connected to Star Wars, and Star Wars has been connected to Disney, and a lot of folks aren't even aware of it.
Right. Well, I also think Disney's an easy punching bag. Like,
yeah,
Disney's like the Jar Jar Binks. Like, if someone just wanted to talk bad about Star Wars during the prequel era, they just started yammering about Jar Jar Binks. That was just like their easy, you know, like, and I think Disney's one of those ones where it's like easy to pick on them, and especially for people that, you know, don't know a lot of the history, and, you know, I don't know.
Only is it a common punching bag, it takes no effort.
Right.
It takes no true thought. They can just lash out, and I'm going to punch Jar Jar, I'm going to punch Disney.
Yeah, yeah. Because pre-Star Wars, I think my favorite movie as a kid was Robin Hood, the cartoon.
The animated one.
Yeah. Don't know why. I just remember when I was a kid, I loved that movie. And then you got all your tattoos. What's that a tattoo of?
It's a galaxy in a bottle.
Oh, okay.
It was Friday the 13th. It's a flash tattoo sale. So, and then I got I got matching Mario mushrooms with a buddy of mine.
I have zero tattoos. I don't have any. There's one vegan tattoo place in Aberdeen, Maryland. So,
Dare I ask what a vegan tattoo is?
The black ink, they use bone char for something for the ink, so it's not vegan. It's made from bones.
Really?
Yeah, which I don't really care. I'm not that much vegan because if they're already a bones problem, it's not because it's me not eating them. They've already been eaten. But that's been my excuse for not getting a tattoo. Because Zoe got her Star Wars tattoo on her 18th birthday while she was in Philly. She had been planning since high school and not told anyone. And I used to, when she was her first semester of college, I would just call her and, hey, how you doing? You know, and I just called her the typical day. Hey, how are you doing? What are you doing? I said, what adventures did you get into? It's funny because I wasn't mad that she got a tattoo, but my wife and I's reactions were both different. Mine was, wait a minute, you're in college. How much did it cost? And Missy's was it safe and was it clean? You know what I mean? So.
My parents always took the stance of, if you ever showed up in our house with a tattoo, it'll be the last time you show up in our house.
Okay, yeah.
So my sister is 2.5 years older than I am, and she's like, well, I want a tattoo, but I also would like a place to live, and I was just like,
you tested them. You're like,
I was like 18 and a half, and I'm like, you know, the best way to get around this is because my dad was the one who was like vehemently against tattoos. So I'm like, okay, what's the best way that I can get around this and make it so he won't be mad? Star Wars tattoo. So I got my Rebel Alliance insignia, and I'm like, yeah, I went and got a tattoo, and he's like, and he was pissed at first, and then I showed it to him, and he's like, all right, that's kind of cool. And then I'm like, okay, cool. We've crossed that. We've broken through that barrier, and
I'm not living in the yard.
Yeah, here we are, 20 tattoos later, and still under their roof.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I know. I just thought it was funny. She got like Harris Laku pattern down the middle of her back. So,
oh wow, that's like how big?
It's like 8 inches long, maybe.
That is a sizable tattoo.
Yeah, well, it's thin. It's just like I don't know. I mean, I just thought it was funny. She surprised us with it.
Yeah, that's the best part.
I don't think I have anything against it. I only I'm glad she didn't get anything on her face. I'm still I can accept most, but face tattoos, I think I have to draw the line at.
Yeah, face, neck, and hands are the things that you cannot cover. Are the ones that I like. I'm real weird about my forearms because like I like either cuffed sleeves or short sleeves. I hate wearing long sleeve shirts unless it's a quarter zip. Yeah, so I'm like, when I got the Arabesh letters right below my elbow, I was even like, all right, I broke my cardinal rule, but like that's not so bad because at least it's my last name and you can't read it. So, except Zoe could, but
yeah, Zoe could, but yeah, I with teaching they don't really. It's not as bad as it was, but there for a while they used to get really worked up if you had tattoos. But now I think more of the women have tattoos than men for teaching.
Yeah, it's becoming a very mainstream thing.
Yeah, well, yeah. When I was a kid, you either had a ton of tattoos or none. It wasn't like it is now.
Right.
Like you meet someone and their whole arm is like a dragon, and that, so. But Ken, they have the Star Wars tattoos at Celebration. They have that whole row.
Yep, they have that whole alley.
Yeah, you can book a tattoo right there.
Oh God damn it!
Like
it's incredible. I mean, you can just go. It is in and of itself a show. I mean, you can go and watch folks get tattooed up. It's
yeah.
I
And
mean, I thought if I were to get more tattoos, I would get one there.
and Disney is pretty picky with. I think they have to apply to be actually even be able to put it be on the stage.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch. I mean, just like with the artists, they don't just let anybody in.
Yeah, it's not like when. I mean, well, they're not as particular with some of the vendors. I don't think. You know, like some of the vendors are suspect in the sense they have, but the artists and the tattoo guys, they're pretty good. The well, Regal Robot will have a stand there, and I can't wait to see Ruby's stand this year. Ruby's costumes, because their one at Chicago I thought was really nice. Like some of those Ruby's costumes were like the Han jacket from Hoth was like $90. Now it wouldn't have kept you warm or anything, but it looked from a costume standpoint, it looked really decent. You know, and the Luke, they had the Luke Ruby's had the Luke Dagobah suit. I think it was like 150.
Oh wow! I didn't even see all that stuff.
It honestly didn't look any different than the $800 Anovos. You know, like it might not have lasted as long, but you're not. It's not like you're really going to Dagobah to train with Yoda. You know.
And see, that's one of the problems of going to Celebration for one day. You know, we were only there for the one day. We legit just ran the whole day.
Yeah.
The only time that we weren't really moving is when we sat down for lunch, which I guess we had to, and then waiting in line to get our photographs. Other than that, we were zipping all over the place, and we just missed so much stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, well, what was nice, we had the press pass, so we got in an hour early before they let most people in. And so we got to like roll through the whole thing, which was kind of cool. But I'm hoping like the Falcon's there. I'm imagining the TIE Fighter will be there again.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they changed them up.
Really? Yeah, but they had they might have the AT-AT then. Was the AT-AT at Chicago?
I don't remember seeing the AT-AT. There was the hover tank. I remember that.
The hover tank.
There wasn't there the
interior of the Falcon, both the two different versions.
I can't remember if they had the cantina or Jabba's stage,
yeah,
Jabba's throne.
They had Jabba's stand, and then they had all the costuming groups had their sets.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to the droid room.
You have to let me know if Matt Bush is there with promoting his movie that hasn't come out yet.
What's his movie?
Aladdin 30 something.
Oh, okay.
He's been promoting that movie since Celebration Anaheim 2015, I think.
Oh. I sent some props up to some guys making a movie in Canada.
Hey.
The one they made a TIE pilot, they made a TIE fighter cockpit and a bunch of stuff you'll see on social media and stuff. They did like a wreck TIE TIE
that's cool.
Fighter and stuff. And they called me about, I had a bunch of, they said, can you send us some like throwaway droid parts? So I had a bunch of 3PO parts, and they paid for the shipping, and I sent them up to Canada. So I don't know whatever happened to them.
Was this a fan film or an adult film?
No, you know what?
He didn't ask any questions. He just sent them as soon as he got
Canada.
the money.
I'll get credit. That would be actually kind of funny.
Your IMDb is getting so full.
Yeah.
You know, technically, once Matt's movie is released, we can apply for the Screen Actors Guild, Mike.
We can? Really? On an independent film?
Yeah.
Well, Zoe's already on IMDb for her film she made in high school with Jake. And I think they put an IMDb for our Star Wars story, too.
Need I say more?
I don't know.
I need some screen time.
We can have our IMDb pages started.
I just want Matt to film again. I just want to see this movie. I'm so excited to see Matt's movie now, because I've read the script, I've seen all the footage shot in the green screen. I just want to see it.
I just want some FaceTime in it. Truthfully, that would be. Because I really want to be a rebel pilot.
Get some blue. Be Thrawn with his long hair.
look, I want to do a chiss so bad. A, I hate contacts, and B, I cannot be blue for work because some of that paint does not come off very easily.
Obviously, you're not very committed.
Yes.
We're gonna have to check your fan card.
Well, if he's going to need Rebel pilots in this one coming up, so
you can be random pilot number 4.
Yeah,
because really, I mean, you don't. The thing is, like, you don't. I mean, of course, this is at Matt's discretion, but like from my point of view, like you don't need the whole getup. You could do it where you're just like a mechanic on base. You've got like half the flight suit on with the arms tied at your waist with a cutoff shirt, like a tank top underneath.
All you need is like a Dickies work overalls tied around your waist, and just some thing that looks like a wrench with some wires on it, and just walk by,
Right.
And then have Maytag repairman on your badge, but in Arabic,
Bingo.
Mr. Fix It.
Yeah.
Or Felix. Fix It Felix.
Yeah.
That's a Disney thing, right?
I just want him to set. I just want him to set a date. I'll harass him about setting a date because he was talking about doing PR, but I'm like, we gotta get this last scene film before we start doing PR. Like we got.
Yeah, we haven't even wrapped filming.
Yeah. I mean, I understand that, but
are you gonna release a teaser trailer next?
Yeah. Well, that's where I think the only thing that hurts the fan films is it's you need the commitment of just getting it all filmed. Like I wish he could have said, and none of us could have done it, but it would have been nice if he could have said, look, I need 4 days, and somehow we all could have just banged it out, which I know you can't, and that's the downside of fan films. But
well, it could have been 4 days over 3 months.
Yeah.
That's different than 4 days in a row.
Right. Well, again, he's tough with setting dates, so I'll talk to him because I don't think he understands the commitment of just everyone in general. I don't think it in a bad way. I just think that's just he doesn't, because that's his baby, so it's easy to make that commitment where it's not our baby yet. It's fun for us, but it's still like,
I don't know. I'm pretty committed.
I'm committed, but it's I like to.
I bought pink shorts for the next time I have to use the boom mic.
Well,
I'm committed.
I'm looking forward to that place, that other place, because that other place looks like it's like a little more not quite out in the sticks, where we can just like park in a real parking lot and just walk. You know what I mean? Like
not go down a dirt trail.
Yeah.
I just wonder how challenging it will be with. It seems like that's a more popular place than where we were.
Yeah, but I think it's used for photography a lot, so it's probably people are used to people doing things.
Yeah, but I mean, with photography, you don't have to worry about the people making sound around you.
Well, he might have to just take a sample of ambient sound and then just loop everything later.
Oh, gotcha.
He might just have to, because that's what I know at Zoe, when Zoe did her movie, that's all they did was they just, in the morning, they took a whole bunch of ambient sound and then they just did all the other stuff in post because of the background noise. So. Who knows? I have some wireless mics. We can mic them up.
True.
Get rid of that.
You're taking Ken's job.
Then when am I going to wear the pink shorts?
Well, yeah.
What else am I going to do?
Well, no. We could wireless. You can still run the mic, run the boom mic too. Those boom mics are pretty good directional too, though. Like the sound he posted up, I was surprised at how well the sound was.
Well, it's all on the operator, really.
Yeah.
I'm shocked we didn't have a boom mic for the first shot or for the first shoot we did.
I think he just sometimes forgets stuff.
Yeah.
I can't.
Well, and we couldn't there was. If you notice, there was no clapper person this time.
Yeah.
Last time I was the clapper. This time I was the boom. Yeah.
Which
I can't clap and boom.
Because the clapper thing, to me, that seems to be as important as the sound, because when you start editing that film, you need that mark. But that's just me.
Yeah.
But
Ken, I've got an idea for your next shirt though, because I'm gonna have to make another one.
Okay.
I really want to make a Soviet Russia hammer and sickle with the slate and the boom mic.
There you go.
Well, you know what my initials are, right?
I know I know at least. Oh my god, it's KGB, isn't it?
Yeah, my initials are KGB, legit.
Oh my god.
That's funny.
Kenneth Gordon Bishop. I am the KGB, or a KGB.
Did your parents really think that through? Like,
well, there is a story. So my father's name and my father's first name was Kenneth. My grandfather's name on my mother's side, his middle name was Gordon. So they smooshed the two together. Kenneth from my dad, Gordon from my mom's side.
nice.
I don't think they thought through the KGB part, though.
My name is John Patrick Precup. That's my birth name.
It's a little different.
Yeah.
We've had this conversation before, though, I think.
The second. I was John Patrick Precup the second. My brother is John Patrick Precup Jr. So, luckily.
Wouldn't that make you the third?
Yeah, but I'm older than him.
Wouldn't that make him the third?
My dad wasn't the brightest bulb.
There's some weird math going on there, some Pennsylvania math.
I have two brothers that are a month apart. My dad had two girls pregnant at the same time.
So half brothers. So that's the other part of the two half brothers.
I don't have any whole siblings. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 half siblings. And
so you've got 3.5 siblings.
Yes, and I have probably a half Hungarian, half Vietnamese village in Vietnam somewhere. Because my dad didn't go that many months without getting someone pregnant, and he was in Vietnam for 14 months. So we just assume there's a bushy eyebrow Hungarian Vietnamese in somewhere in the middle of the southern Vietnam.
Would that be Hungdamies?
I don't know what they would be.
I swear, you have the most D&D
Viet
backstory out of any of us.
No, I had some fun times, man. I was kidnapped by my parents in 5th grade. You know, my mom and stepdad kidnapped me from my grandparents when I was in 5th grade. When I sold my house that I lived in before this house, the hardest thing to get rid of was I remember hanging on to that wall when they were dragging me out of the house. My wife always says I should be more messed up.
But you got Star Wars. I
know, man. I got
that's what keeps the glue together.
Right. And I got my grandparents were pretty cool. I don't think my grandparents ever saw Star Wars, but they supported me in Star Wars. Like my grandfather just wasn't a movie going guy. He was like $3.50 for a movie. I can watch TV for free. I don't know.
Oh, man.
All right,
we said we were going to wrap up a half hour ago.
Know, right? Well, so I don't know what's going to happen next week.
That's traditional, Mike, for you.
I know. Because I will be next Wednesday. My flight leaves at like 7 o'clock or something like that. I'll be in Minnesota at like 11 or something. I don't know. Somehow my plane we have a layover in Minnesota, which I think that's just Travelocity just making a cruel joke of my flight. But I will hopefully do a bunch of lives and stuff from Celebration.
Yeah, and you're gonna need as much energy as you can for taking photographs, taking videos, and picking up swag for John and I. So
right.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, if I haven't put in for my spot in the
store
gift shop yet, but I might look at that. They haven't really put many panels out, so I'm trying to keep my calendar free. We put in for a bunch of the panels, but I'm hoping there's like more like last minute stuff, you know. And there's a bunch of podcast meetups we're going to try to hit too. And they even have after hours signings now because
one of the podcasts is doing an event outside of Celebration where they're going to have some authors there, and it's amazing how Celebration has expanded beyond Celebration.
Well, Steel Wars always does a live broadcast of Star Wars erotic fiction during that, but I can't channel that. It's I know.
So do they write said erotic fiction, or do they just read somebody else's?
Someone wrote it, and then a bunch of them read it. I think it's more like goofy erotic fiction and stuff. It's more just like a. But I've never sat in on one. But the last time I went, they were just
like 50 Shades of Grey Jedi. Like what?
Yeah. That's pretty much it. So. So there's that. Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff. And there's some after hours at the park. Some guys are going Friday night to. They extended the hours at the park and stuff. So we'll see what debauchery. I can't get into any of. Yeah, like. I think I draw the line of taking my daughter to erotic Star Wars fiction. That would.
Yeah, there should be lines.
That's a good line.
Yeah. But no, because I'm going to try to hang with her, and I are going to try to just do a bunch of stuff because like he graduates from college in December, so that everything changes, So, but we're going to try to meet up with some podcasters and some TikTokers, and we'll probably hang with Sal and Liz and see what they're up to. Axel's like 6 foot tall now, like
and he's only like 18, right?
He's 16, I think.
16.
Yeah, he was like when we met him, he was like little.
Yeah,
little.
He was Ezra, wasn't he?
Now he's like 6 foot tall.
Yeah, now he's Chewbacca.
Yeah, he did a young Boba Fett too. When he started with the young Boba Fett, with the poncho and the helmet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So,
real quick before we leave, talking about getting swag for Ken and I. My buddy's going back to Tunisia. So I bought him some mason jars to get you guys some sand from the Lars homestead if he goes back.
Oh, that would be my.
So next time you guys are here, I have sand from all the places at Death Valley in bags, all marked. We just have to divide them up, and we can do. I just have to. Yeah.
We can trade jars of dirt.
Yeah. Like real weirdo stuff.
As long as you're not trading blood like Billy Bob Thornton.
Right.
And if you're listening, Billy Bob, this is not an insult. It's just
he might be one of
a little weird.
I just watched unrelated to Star Wars, but Fargo, the television show, with him in it. Season 1 is really good. I will recommend it.
It's on my list. I gotta watch it, but
he just found it by mistake. It just kind of, I don't know if they suggested it or something, but it's good.
Well, on a Fargo note, I'm going to say goodnight, gentlemen.
Yep, me too, guys.
All right.
Later.
See you later.
See you guys.
Later.
Bye.